Good evening, everybody. It's Jim Carn, the town moderator. We're just watching the con 7:15, the time to start the second night of the town meeting. We have 71 voting members right now. Uh, uh, Here, we need 90 for a quorum. So we're just going to wait and see if that number ticks up. If you do have somebody in your household that's not logged on to their own device right now, or you know somebody that should be here that's not, give them a shout or a text or something like that. And we're just a few short, so I think we should be able to get to that number pretty quickly. Yeah, we're just a couple short here now. I've got 83, I think, so we need like 7 more people to get started. I believe Town Clerk Jeannie Terrara, are you an elected town meeting member as well?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so we'll include you in the count as well.
Okay.
So we're 3 short with 87 attendees right now, including Mrs. Terrara and myself. When we get started, I see a couple of hands raised. I'm not sure if there's questions or not. Ms. Godwin, did you have something to say? I see your hand up.
I was just going to say that I'm a town member on the finance committee. I could swear in if need be.
Okay, but you're not currently an elected town meeting member.
I do not believe so.
Okay, thank you. We're actually at 88 right now, so I think we should be okay. Okay, so we just, I just hit 88 attendees plus myself and Mrs. Terrara, so I believe that's 90. Mrs. Terrara, would you confirm that we've reached a quorum?
Have we?
Yep.
Okay.
You're
I
in
mean,
Mhm.
yes, Jim, we're all set.
Okay, Before we get started, I see Michael Sidga has his hand up for some reason. Mike,
Yeah, thank you, Mike Signa, Precinct 2. I was raising my hand basically for what Susan said. We had two members of FinCom, Andrea Pekarsky and Susan Godwin, on the list of non-resident meeting members or some such thing, and I thought that was incorrect. So that would have added two more to our total if I was right, and they are town meeting members. They're also FinCom.
okay, so who are voting members as well?
It's Andrea.
Oh, Andrea's an elected official?
I thought everyone on FinCom was at this point.
I don't believe so.
Okay.
But at that, given that point, we've got 91 attendees plus 2 over, so I think we're in good shape.
Okay, thank you.
If we run to that point, then we maybe have to invoke that. Okay, very good. We're now seeing the number increase here, so we're getting a lot more folks joining in, and I think we'll be in good shape here. So the town clerk has ascertained as a quorum. The return of the warrant was posted and delivered. This is a continuation from the adjournment of the town meeting from last night. The selectman has reduced the quorum to 90 for this meeting this evening. We're going to dispense with the formalities, but I would ask if there are any newly elected town meeting members who were not here to be sworn in last night, but have not been sworn in yet. Raise your hands. And I see 2 hands raised. So let me lower your hands, and I'm going to read the oath. And if you agree, then you can raise your hand again. Do you, duly elected town meeting members, solemnly swear and affirm that you honestly, faithfully, and impartially discharge your duties in accordance with the laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and the bylaws of the town of Holbrook? Please raise your hand on the screen if you do. And welcome Patrick M. Culhane back to town meeting, and Linda Ferrari. I'm glad you were able to get on tonight. Thank you. We can lower those hands now. I just wanted a couple of procedural clarifications, and then we'll get underway here. Again, voting, raise your hands. We all know how to do that. We have not been able to resolve the issue where some clients only show the percentage and not the total count of the vote. I will try to endeavor to read the counts clearly and make sure that they're recorded properly, and the town clerk is recording them, and they will appear on the video. The Q&A was a little bit abused last night. Use it for seconding a motion, a point of order, or question privileges. Point of order is only relating to whether the current speaker is not entitled to the floor or something like that. It's not used to gain the floor for other purposes, such as move the question. And a question of privilege, such as I can't hear the speaker or it's feeding back or something like that. That's really, I had all of the formality stuff. Tonight, I expect some pretty vigorous debate on some of these articles. Last evening, we had quite a few folks that got to speak 3 or more times on an article. In order to be fair to all of the speakers this evening who would like to weigh in on these articles, I would like very much to give precedence to folks who have not been heard from on the articles. And then if we get back to somebody later on who's already spoken once, we do. If we don't, that's okay too. So the message here is very clear. When you have the floor, talk about the article, why you should or shouldn't vote for it, and make sure you've completed what you've done, and be prepared that would be the time you would get to speak, because we do want to be fair to everybody else. All right, I think that's about it. We do have a good body here. We have 96 regular attendees plus 2 panelists who are also voting members, so we're well into the quorum area. And I'm going to start the town meeting up by asking the HCAM folks to find John McFadden. And we'll allow Mr. McFadden to talk. I think where we left off last night, I think, John, you were about to make a motion. And you should receive a prompt to unmute. You've got your hand up there. And I think this was regarding Article 13, if I'm not mistaken. The floor belongs to Mr. McFadden.
Mr. Moderator, this is John
I'm looking for John McFadden, not John Flanagan. I think they asked the unmute to the wrong one.
There you go.
Okay, John, same thing as last time. You're gonna have to turn that other device down. The feedback is terrible. My ears are still ringing from last night.
I know.
Where else can I go?
Close.
I'm not sure where, but wherever you're sitting now, don't stay there. We'll give him a second to get the audio squared away. My
I
apologies.
think she's gone now.
Okay, I think that sounds a little better, John.
You've managed to banish my wife, something nobody else has been able to do. All right, so we're in Article 13.
Well, you had a motion, you had made a motion last evening and
Right.
we had done this for Article 12, and I thought that you might want to have the floor first to make a motion regarding Article 13. Article 13 last night is the collective bargaining agreement with the Police Superiors Association, and this article was defeated.
Yep. And we were going to make a motion to reconsider. And I thought, though, that Kevin Costa had made a motion as well.
No, there'd been no motion on Article 13. We did this for
Okay.
Article 12. I wanted to give the opportunity for us to do the same thing so we can dispose of that part of
Fine.
it. Business.
Can I make a motion to reconsider Article 13?
Is there a second? Lindsay Vader is second. Motion has been made and seconded. We'll move to reconsideration on Article 13. Chris Golden is a second as well. Article 13, originally, the original motion here was as printed on the screen with the amount of 440195.44. Is there a new motion on Article 13? Mr. McFadden, that's your cue.
Oh, that's my cue? Okay. Am I on? Can you hear me?
You are live and you are on.
Oh, I thought I was muted.
So
Sorry.
we are reconsidering this right now.
Okay, I make a motion to reconsider Article 13.
Okay, we're already, that already,
Has been
the motion
done.
is made and done. Okay, so I'm going to do a vote here on the motion to reconsider. All those in favor of reconsideration, vote yes. All those opposed to reconsideration, vote no. We'll keep the poll open. Okay, at this point, I'll close the poll and I'm going to share the results. For those of you who can't fully see, and the numbers in the parentheses are the actual counts and the numbers in bold are the percentages. Some devices don't show apparently the actual count. We have 73 in favor of reconsideration and 21 opposed to reconsideration. So Article 13 is now open for reconsideration by majority. Okay, Mr. McFadden, you made a motion and we're still not seeing the count on some of the places, so we'll have to just work through that. Mr. McFadden, I'm going to give you the floor if you wanted to make a new motion on Article 13.
Am I there?
You are here. And
Oh, okay. I can't tell whether I'm on or not.
You're on still, yeah. I'll
Okay.
cut you off in a minute.
So the purpose of this is to do exactly what we did last night. And I think everybody knows that we initially voted down the article last night, and this would preserve the opportunity for the Board of Selectmen to resubmit this article for a special town meeting and therefore at a future time.
Okay, so to move
Thank you.
forward, here, I think you would need to make a motion similar to what you did last night for Article 12 now.
Okay, so we'll make a motion that we reconsider
Okay, no, we've already reconsidered.
Article 13 that
No,
we,
no, we've already,
Motion.
we've already reconsidered.
Chairman, I have a
Mr.
motion.
Duggan, would you like to make the motion?
yeah,
Yes,
thank you.
Mr. Yeah, no problem, sir. I would like to make a motion on Article 13 that we refer this article back to the selectmen.
Second,
Motion has been made by Patrick Duggan to refer Article 13 back to the selectmen. We have a second by Barry Horn. Discussion, I have Thomas Haskins. We'll have you have the floor in a second here. And Mr. McFadden can yield the floor, please.
I
Yeah,
unmuted
I
myself.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I didn't raise my hand, so you can skip me.
Okay, we can skip you. Okay, we'll get off the floor. Is there any further discussion on the motion to refer Article 13 back to the Board of Selectmen? Seeing none, we'll move to the vote on the motion to refer Article 13 back to the Board of Selectmen. I'm going to launch the poll. All those in favor of referring this article back to the Selectmen, please signify by voting yes. All those opposed, vote no. Okay, it looks like most of the votes are in. It's pretty conclusive here. We have 78 people in favor, 86%, 13% opposed. The motion to refer Article 13 back to the Board of Selectmen carries. The affirmative action on the prior motion on Article 13, which is shown on the screen, is rescinded. I'm going to move on to Article number 15, I think is the next one in line here. And this is going to be the Board of Selectmen is going to read this. Chairman Lee.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to authorize a creation of a special purpose stabilization fund called Water Capital Improvement Stabilization Fund under Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 5B, as amended, specifically for water treatment plant and pertinent structures.
Second.
On a motion made by Mr. Lee and seconded by Mr. I believe Mahoney. Is there discussion?
We have, if I may,
Finance Committee recommendation.
FinCom recommend 8-0. FinCom
I-
recommend 8-0, Mr. Moderator.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mahoney. Sorry, I get in the swing of things here again tonight. It's been a long time since I've
That's
done
okay.
this.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Chair recognizes Thomas Haskins. Again, we want to try to have one speaker, one slot, and not have the same speaker more than once, so we give everybody fairness and get into that cadence here. Mr. Haskins, you should be getting
I'm just curious what this money will be spent on, and will it be used for adding filters to take away these chemicals we just heard about? Thank you.
Thank you. Would Mr. Lee like to answer that or try to answer that for him?
Moderator, so under Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section B, it allows us to set aside money each year to be held in stabilization funds in order to provide for emergency and unforeseen expenses. I can say that we are working with the state DEP on the filters at the joint water plant, and we will be updating the residents very soon on that. But there is a potential plan in place to start replacing those filters.
Thank you, Chairman Lee. Again, I see Linda Ferrari has her hand up. Chair recognizes Linda Ferrari. You should receive a box in a second asking you to unmute yourself. When you do that, make sure you unmute yourself. Keep in mind, the meeting tonight is being recorded by state law and will be replayed on HCAM and it'll be available on the web. So, be on your best behavior. We have to do this. Linda Ferrari, I see you've got your hand up and we've asked you to unmute, but you have not unmuted yet, so we can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
We have you now.
Okay. I'm just curious to know, where does the money come from to fund this stabilization fund?
Thank you, Ms. Ferrari. Give the floor to Mr. Lee to try to answer that question. Chairman Lee?
Can you answer it? I can't see it.
So, yeah, the question is where's the funding source for this? Where does the money come from to fund this?
Hold on, we're gonna have town administrator answer this.
Okay. I'm gonna try to get him online here. Jim, you should be okay now to talk.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. According to the statute, if this article is approved, the local legislative body, which is town meeting, by a 2/3 vote, may dedicate a stabilization fund to retain certain revenue streams, including revenues from fees and charges, except revenues already reserved by law for a particular purpose and locally assessed taxes and excise.
Okay, that's a mouthful. Could you simplify that for me?
If we
Where's
take
the
in
money? Simplify it for me, so I can understand it. Where's the money coming from that funds
a
this?
variety of revenue sources,
Okay,
including the water bills that you pay.
okay, very good. Thank you. So we have folks raising their hands again, and Linda Ferrari was in the process of asking the question. Let's give Ms. Ferrari the floor again. My intention is to only one per customer here tonight. Get your questions out and let's move on. We'll make a little exception this time, but we do need to get the meeting moving. Chair recognizes Linda Ferrari.
Thank you. I just want to know if that could be an increase in taxes. He doesn't seem very clear about where it's coming from.
So the question for Mr. Omar is it would this result in an increase in taxes?
No, it would not. It's from revenues derived from sources related to water.
Thank you. And once again, the chair will recognize Thomas Haskins. Again, caution.
I'll be quick. Quick. Thank you. I just want to request that in the future, when we're asked to spend money on something like this, that you define more clearly what the money is going to be spent on. This just isn't that clear. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Diana DiMattino.
Hi, thank you. I just have a clarity question. Mr. Lee had said that we were working with the EPA on this. Do we have a committee that's directly going to be responsible for this and working with EPA? I mean, to me, I really don't care where the money's coming from, because this is one of the most critical problems in the town of Holbrook is the water. So, I mean, I'm all for this, and I'd even like to see more involvement. Thank you.
Thank you. Chairman Lee, would you like to try to answer that question regarding committee? We're just waiting for audio from Mr. Lee.
Mr. Chairman, perhaps I could help.
Oh, sure, go ahead. This is again, people can't see who you are sometimes, so say your name before you speak, and if you're recognized the floor, say your name and your precinct, please.
Thank you. Jim O'Mara, I'm the interim town administrator. I'm also a member of the Randolph-Holbrook Joint Water Board. We've been working with the Mass DEP for about 12 months associated with PFSAs, what you got the flyer on in the mail last week, I believe it was. So that everybody is aware, the federal standard for parts per trillion, excuse me, is 75. The Massachusetts level is 20. The Randolph-Holbrook water system has been hovering at 20, fluctuating as high as 22 and as low as 17. As a result, the average put us at 20 parts per trillion, which triggered a requirement to send out a piece of educational material. It's not a warning, it's not a hazard. It's designed to educate and reduce anxiety associated with this.
Okay, so I do want to caution the speakers, we're talking about creating a water capital improvement stabilization fund, so we'll try to keep the comments within the four corners of that motion. I know people want information about the water, but we do need to get through the article. Chair recognizes Megan Mitchell. Wait for the prompt for you to unmute your microphone. Megan Mitchell, I see you're unmuted now. You should be all set.
You can hear me now?
We got you, yeah.
Okay, I apologize for the dog. Megan Mitchell, precinct 4. This may be a redundant question, but I just want to know, will our water rates be going up because of this?
Mr. O'Mara, maybe you can try to answer that, field that question.
No, again, this stabilization fund will be funded by revenues from a variety of sources, not tax dollars.
Okay, I think the question was related to will the water rates be going up as a result of this?
The question's on the table right now. The board has addressed it about a month and a half ago, and the motion to raise the rates failed. But the issue associated with why the rates are being raised, asked to be raised, has not gone away.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Mitchell, do you have any follow-on questions?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Chair recognizes Chris Golden. And you should get a prompt to unmute. Chris, we still don't have you unmuted yet. Look for a box to ask you to unmute. There
Hear
you
me
go.
now?
Yeah, we got you.
Sorry, Chris Golden, precinct 3. I just wanted to say we seem to be getting way off track. If I'm not mistaken, this is just the creation of an account. I mean, obviously this is all important stuff, but this is just to create an account for this money to be, have somewhere to be able to put this money for this particular, just for maintenance of the facility, obviously. They're just creating an account. There is no money to put in there right now. They're not taking money from anywhere. It's just to create the account, and it's just a formality. I just think we're getting a little sidetracked.
Thank you. Yeah, I usually allow a little bit of latitude. I know people have questions, but we will try to, again, keep it within the scope of what's on the screen here. I have 2 more speakers here. Thank you, Mr. Gold. Do you have anything else?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Chair recognizes Arthur George.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I echo some of the concerns. I understand it's the intent of the statute was for particular purposes and for a particular time period. Obviously, when you say water-related infrastructure, specifically the water treatment plant and pertinent structures, you know, I suppose you can say that that's part of it, but that's also funded in different ways. And so I am a little bit concerned about the lack of a straightforward implementation of the fund by just saying we're looking at a variety of sources. And my question is, could we not as a town, not necessarily today, but could we as a town fund it from some other source directly without it being funded from funds?
Thank you, Arthur. Is that your final question there? Or?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Moderator, I got that. I can answer that question because I think I'm the next one. The hand up. You said there were 2 people.
Oh, okay, great. So Arthur, thank you. And Patrick Duggan, make sure because people can't see you. I say your name and your precinct or your role.
I'm sorry, Jim. Patrick Duggan, FinCom, precinct 4. I want to try to clarify some purposes of this. This stabilization fund is just setting up the account, as was previously noted. It's a setup account to establish. When the former superintendent came before us, the point of this account was to put it there so we can start. If funding is available, however we fund it, either through free cash, through raising taxes, which I think is what Jim's point was. However we decide to fund this, we're going to have to pay for that new water treatment facility at some point. So he wanted to get a fund out there that we could start putting money aside so we don't have to get hit with a big tax bill down the line. That is simply all this, the point of this water stabilization fund was for. It has nothing, it's not, well, it's all related to water. That was the purpose of this fund, so we could start thinking about that. It's not, this fund is not going to affect the water rates. It's not going to affect the water quality, as Jim has so, I think, greatly explained to us, is way under, not as big as a crisis has been anecdotally put out there. Jim gave us the facts, so I think that's great. So I just want to clear, this is just establishing a fund, no funding, but we can't put any funding in there unless the fund's established. It's a very simple article, actually.
Great, Patrick. Can I, there's one more question that was asked earlier by Diana DiMartino. Rather than going through the process of trying to unmute her, the question is if there was a committee established to oversee this funder project. This is sort of a yes or no question.
Well, I don't know what you mean by funded project. This is just a town thing. This is overseen by the DPW town meeting, and you'll correct me on this, town meeting has to move the money out of the stabilization fund. And these funds are overseen by the town accountant, the board of selectmen. And again, the finance committee oversees has a role in all the overseeing the finance. So for this fund, there's no reason, there's no committee, there's nothing they can do with it. There's a water board and all that stuff is already is in existence.
Okay, thank you for trying to field that question. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Seeing no more hands, let's move to a vote. In order to create a stabilization fund here, the state statute requires a 2/3 majority. And we'll have all those in favor of creating the stabilization fund. The motion is to move to the town authorize the creation of a special purpose stabilization fund called Water Capital Improvement Stabilization Fund under Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 5B as amended for the purpose of funding capital improvements to the town's water-related infrastructure, specifically the water treatment plant and pertinent structures. This vote does require a 2/3 majority. All those in favor of the motion signify by voting yes. All those opposed, no. We're just waiting for a few more votes to come in here. Okay, I think we've got everything. We have 99 in favor and 4 opposed. Motion carries by a clear 2/3 majority. That's 99 in favor and 4 opposed. So the motion does carry. Let's move on to article number 16.
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Chairman.
I move to amend the general bylaw section 10.5-3 to add the observance of Juneteenth holiday on June 19th annually. This is Juneteenth became an officially recognized holiday in Massachusetts thanks to the amendment added to
Let's do the motion and then you can speak on it. Okay. So
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to amend the general bylaw section 10.5.3 to add the observance of Juneteenth holiday on June 19th annually. I'll give the floor to Chairman Lee for discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
I'm sorry, we get the FinCom to weigh in first on it. Mr. Mahoney, Finance Committee recommendation.
FinCom recommends 6-1-1, 6-for, 1 against, 1 abstain.
Very good. Chairman Lee, opening discussion on the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Juneteenth became an officially recognized holiday in Massachusetts. Thanks to the amendment added to a COVID-19 spending bill signed by Governor Charlie Baker in July of 2020. The annual commemoration marks the day when Union General Gordon Granger reached Galveston, Texas with the news that the Civil War had ended and enslaved people were free. That day was June 19th, 1865.
Very good. Is there any further discussion on the motion in the article? Chair recognizes Ann LaSalvia.
Yes, hi. Would this holiday be a paid holiday for town employees, including employees that are working as under overtime on this day?
Chairman Lee.
That would be negotiated, but I believe that that it is looking to, the unions are looking to get that as a holiday, correct?
Ann, did you have any follow-on questions from that?
No.
Okay, thank you. Chair recognizes Jacqueline Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Jacqueline Renee Walker, Precinct 4. Does this mean that town services would be closed on this day whenever the 19th falls?
Again, I'll defer to Chairman Lee for that answer.
That is correct. If it was a holiday that was given to the collective bargaining units, that it would be.
Does that satisfy your question?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Chair recognizes Patrick Duggan.
Just to add some further category, any employee who does not part of a union may, and it has to be in their contracts already. So if it's in there, meaning that they, depending on their contract is written, they may get us only a certain number. So there is a possibility some will get it automatically, but as Mr. Chairman has explained a couple of times, they won't get it until they bargain. And since, as we know, some contracts have already been bargained, may be in there, may not be, but anyone that doesn't have it now won't get it. So they'll be expected to work, or they, depending how they bargain, I'm not going to get into that, may give up another holiday. So that's the future thing, but it is going to be recognized in the rest of the state. So I think this is just to recognize it like the rest of the state and the country.
Thank you, Mr. Duggan. Seeing no further hands for discussion, we'll move to a vote. Oh, Michael Sigga. Sorry, just missed one more hand here.
Yep. Mike Sigda, Precinct 2. Just want to speak real quickly as the minority or dissenting opinion on the FinCom. Understood why this is a holiday of sorts, but the fact of the matter is, what is the town taxpayers and the town itself getting in exchange for this additional holiday? As we know, the purpose of government services is to deliver government services. So the purpose of town government is to deliver town services or government services. And what this does is, for the departments that are off, then that's one less day of productivity. For the departments like public safety who are on, that's another day of overtime. So at the end result, even though it's a really good intentions here, the town isn't getting anything for this in exchange. And even though there's not a lot of employees subject to this now, we know we're already seeing it being bargained for, as Chairman Lee said. So it's just a matter of time before this becomes town-wide and just a greater expense for the services delivered today, just going to cost the town more. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sigga. We have a series of hands raised here now.
Not unless you work.
And we have, Chair recognizes Patricia Greeley.
Move the vote.
Chair, motion is that a motion to move the question?
Yes, please.
Want a motion by Ms. Greeley to move the question. Is there a second?
Thank you.
Second.
Motion has been made to move the question, and it has been seconded. This means we will terminate debate on this and move directly to the vote if this motion is successful. This requires a 2/3 majority of vote. All those in favor of moving the question, please vote yes. All those opposed to moving the question, vote no. Just waiting for a few more votes to come in, and I can see, it's numbers clicking up over here in the background. So when I try to run about 30 seconds or so, and when we get the majority of the folks come in, we'll call it, and we'll do that right now. So the results of the motion with the question is exceeded the 2/3 majority. There were 93 in favor, 10 opposed to move the question. Question is moved. Debate is terminated. All hands can be lowered, and we will move directly to a vote on the main motion. The main motion is to move to amend the general bylaw section 10.53 to add the observance of the Juneteenth holiday on June 19th annually. All those in favor of this motion, please vote yes. All those opposed, vote no. This is a simple majority vote, by the way. I didn't say that. Okay, those people who voted seems to stop trickling in. We have 65 in favor of the motion. We have 34 opposed to the motion on Article 16. The motion on Article 16 carries. 65 in favor, 34 opposed. We'll move to discussion or move to the motion on Article 17. Chairman Lee.
Mr. Moderator, I move the town appropriate the sum of $279,169.00 for the purchase of capital items for fiscal year 2022 as recommended in the fiscal year 21 Capital Improvement Planning Committee report.
Second,
Motion has been made and seconded. Finance Committee.
recommends 8-0.
Mr. Lee, do you have any discussion on this? Mr. Lee, is there any discussion on the article? Otherwise, we'll move right to a vote. Yeah, right. You want a second? Well, Mr. Lee is getting this together, and the chair recognizes Benjamin Wells.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Benjamin Wells, Precinct 4. I just wanted to clarify, was that, it says in the warrant to transfer and Chairman Lee said appropriate.
I get those two mixed up all the time. You should see my spelling. All righty, great. Is that all you needed? Okay, you're back on mute. Chairman Lee, when you come back, maybe you can answer that question and restate the motion.
Apologize about that, Mr. Moderator. I move the town transfer the sum of $279,196.00 from capital stabilization 20-123-2020-5963. Said sum to be deposited into capital improvement funds.
Okay, very good. So this is a transfer motion. It's been made and seconded. It's on the floor. Mr. Lee, would you like to just explain a little bit what this is about?
I believe we have the chair of the capital committee on, Susan.
Susan Godwin?
Godwin, yes.
Great. We'll transfer over to her. And Susan, you have the floor.
Good evening, Susan Godwin, Precinct 2, FinCom. Basically, this is for the capital equipment that was requested by the leads from each of the departments in the town. And we went through a rigorous review process, and we came to we took into account what are the carryovers from the previous years, what we would be adding. And for the fiscal year 2022, we had $118,281 committed leases. So that's money that's already committed. And then there were 4 requests that were approved. One was a new 4-wheel drive pickup truck.
Susan, I think you're confused about the articles. We're just
Oh.
on the transfer one. We're not discussing the actual capital improvements allocation yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. So the transfer from the stabilization capital, we have a stabilization capital fund that we put money into each year. And for this year, we are transferring money from that fund to help fund the capital for 2022. The other portion of the balance of what we need for 2022 is coming from an ambulance fund, because one of the items on the list is for a bucket truck.
Okay, so that's the description of the transfer. Chair recognizes Michael Fleming.
I just wanted to echo the issue that Susan just said. All it is a transfer, similar to the establishment of the water treatment stabilization fund. This is money that we've had in some respects put away, but just for the purpose of capital equipment that the town needs, as presented by the department heads within the town. It really is so that we don't go into systems that go out and just buy stuff every year. We have that ability, but we also have the ability to move money from within the capital programs so that it better minimizes any amount of direct taxable money we have or we would need to buy this needed equipment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fleming. Seeing no more hands raised, we'll move to a vote on the motion to transfer $279,196.00 from capital stabilization account number on the screen to the sum to be deposited in the capital improvement funds. Because this amount is being transferred from a stabilization fund under state law, it does require a supermajority. So we need a 2/3 vote to make this motion fly. All those in favor signify by voting yes. All those opposed signify by voting no. We're just waiting and see, make sure almost of the votes are in here. Okay, looks like most of the votes are in here. I'm going to share the results. There being 84 in favor and 13 opposed. 84 in favor, 13 opposed. I'm just writing these down here. 87% were in favor, 13% were opposed. So that carries by the 2/3 majority. Article 17, the motion Article 17 passes. We'll move now to Article number 18. Chairman Lee, Article 18.
Mr. Moderator, I move the town appropriate the sum. Hold on one second. I don't have that number.
338101.
Town appropriate the sum of what is it again? I'm sorry, 338,000. I have it now. I'm sorry. I move the town appropriate the sum of $338,101 for the purchase of capital items for fiscal year 22, as recommended in the fiscal 22 capital improvement planning committee report.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion on the motion on Article 18? We're showing on the screen the source of the cash. Chair recognizes Patrick Duggan.
Just to explain what, in case those who don't, the capital plan is mentioned earlier that the difference in the money, the article is for 338,101. That's because the money we moved in Article 17 from stabilization goes into the capital account. And this month, along with the money that was already in there and the ambulance fund money that Susan had mentioned earlier, is a total of 338 to pay for the capital items that were approved by the capital planning committee is now on the screen. Just in case anyone wants to question whether the dollars are different.
Very
There's
good.
an original
Thank you.
typo. There was a typo in the warrant that went out originally, which I will take the blame for. So just so everyone knows.
Okay, not a typist. Thank you, Mr. Duggan from the Finance Committee. I'm going to ask the Town Council, David DeLuca, to unmute. And the quick question is, the quantum of the vote document marks this 2/3 of borrowing. I don't see any borrowing here. Can you render an opinion on the quantum of the vote for this article?
Mr. Moderator, in the absence of any borrowing, it is a majority vote.
Thank you. We ruled that the quantum of the vote for this will require just a simple majority then, and not a 2/3 majority, because there's no evidence of borrowing, for the record. Chair recognizes Mr. Charles Greeley.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Just a question. The bucket truck for the fire department, what's the purpose of that?
Probably let me see if Susan Godwin could answer that, perhaps.
Yes, so actually, this bucket truck has had numerous issues over the past 2 to 3 years, and they use this bucket truck for fixing the, I believe it's the antennas that allow for the, when there is a fire, to go back to the firehouse. And then they also share it with the DPW, and the DPW uses it when they need to fix items that are at height, like a street light or something. So it's jointly used between the two.
Mr. Greeley, anything to follow up on that?
No, thank you very much.
And it also became, just as an additional note, it got to a point where it actually became a safety issue because the bucket wasn't reliable to always retract and recede as needed. So there was a safety concern that a person could get stuck at height.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Michael Fleming.
I think Susan just clarified the point I was going to make. It had failed with employees in the air on previous years, and it had been fixed and refixed over a number of years. And it just was, again, a critical safety issue. And also it supports the existing fire alarm system within the town. While it's not as prevalent as it once was, it is now still and was and still is very important to the fire department in the alarm systems within the town.
Thank you, Mr. Fleming. HCAM, can we switch? We have no more hands, so we're going to switch back to the motion. We'll read the motion again and go to a vote. The motion is on the floor. This moves that the town appropriate the sum of $279,196.00. Actually, the actual text is incorrect here. It should be $338,101 for the purchase of the capital items for fiscal year 2020 as recommended in the FY22 capital improvement planning report. So the motion is for 338,101. The actual spelling out would reflect an earlier number that was superseded. This is by ruling of the town council. This is a simple majority vote. All those in favor, please vote yes. All those opposed, please vote no. Looks like most of the votes are in. This has 86 in favor and 14 opposed. For Article 18, the motion carries. Let me share the results. 86 in favor. And this was a real nice number. So it's 86% as well, and 14% or 14 people no. So we had an even 100 votes on that one. Motion on Article 18 carries. We will now move to Chairman Lee. This will be Article number 19.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town amend general bylaws, zoning bylaws, personnel bylaws, rules, regulations, or communications as written in the article. And this is to change the name from Board of Selectmen to Select Board.
Second,
Finance Committee recommendation.
Finance Committee recommends 8-0.
The further discussion, Chairman Lee, maybe you'd like to introduce the article a little bit on what we're doing here.
So this came up probably about 2 years ago now. That it was introduced by Selectman Veda, that she thought that it should be a gender neutral board. You've probably seen many other towns in New England have chose to change it from the Board of Selectmen to the Select Board. And we took a vote at one of the meetings, probably, like I said, about 2 years ago, a year and a half, 2 years ago. And so it would just basically change that to make it the Select Board.
Further discussion, I don't see any hands. This vote here actually modifies a zoning bylaw in this place. I have Thomas Haskins with the hands up. Mr. Haskins, briefly.
Just quickly, the definition of men also includes the human race. It's not absolutely male.
Thank you, Mr. Haskins. Okay, we'll move to, I see no further hands up on this. We'll move to a vote on this. Because this amends a zoning bylaw, zoning bylaws have a special requirement. They require a 2/3 majority, even for language changes such as this. So this bylaw will require a 2/3 majority to vote. And the motion is that the town amend the general bylaws, zoning bylaw, personnel bylaw, rules, regulations, or communications as noted above to reflect the change in the distinction of the Board of Selectmen to Select Board. All those in favor, again, this requires a 2/3 majority, please vote yes. All those opposed, please vote no. I just wait for a few more votes to come in here. It looks like we got just about everybody. We have there being 90 in favor and 13 opposed. 90 in favor, 13 opposed. That's 87% in favor, 13 opposed. This passes a 2/3 majority, and the motion on article number 19 has passed. We'll move next to Article 20, Board of Health. And ask Chairman Lee.
Mr. Moderator, I move the town increase the Board of Health from 3 members to 5 members in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 2.
There's been a motion made.
Mr. Moderator,
Motion has been made on a second from Benjamin Wells. We will, let's see, we have some hands up. Chairman Lee, let's have you introduce the article first. Did we get the FinCom recommendation again?
8-0.
8-0, okay. Mr. Lee, just a little bit about the article.
Mr. Moderator, I just seen that the health agent, Abby Myers, would like to speak to this.
Very good. Chair recognizes Health Agent Abby Myers to speak to this article. And again, these voters were approved at the opening of the meeting to have permission to speak.
thank you, Mr. Moderator. The Board of Health encompasses many facets of public health, and in an opportunity to have more members would create more diversity and perspectives, and it would provide the community with many more resources. And I think it would be beneficial for the town that we could offer more education and outreach and help. So that is why we are asking to increase our size.
Very good, thank you. Any further discussion, please raise your hands now. Seeing no hands, we'll move to a vote on the motion to increase the Board of Health. Up, Jacqueline Walker. The chair recognizes Jacqueline Walker.
Hey, Jacqueline Walker, Precinct 4. Would these members be voted on? And if we do pass this tonight, at what time would we add the additional 2 members? Would that be in the next, like, when would we have that vote?
It would be the next election. So it would be continue as a 3-member board until the next election, and 2 additional spots would open up.
When's the next town election?
I believe in April, if Jeannie can.
April of
confirm.
next year, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Walker. Seeing no further hands, we'll move to a vote on the motion to increase the Board of Health from 3 members to 5 members in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 2. This requires a simple majority of vote. All of those in favor signify by checking yes. All those opposed, no. Just waiting for a few more votes to come in here. And we'll end the voting now and share the results. There being 86 votes in favor and 15 opposed, the motion on Article 20 carries. That's 86 in favor and 15 opposed. We'll move now to Article number 21, Petition General Court for Land Swap. Chairman Lee, you have the floor.
Moderator, I move the town approve the Board of Selectmen to petition the General Court to enact legislation as indicated in the warrant, provided the General Court may reasonably vary from the form and substance of the requested legislation within the scope of the general public objectives of the petition.
Motion has been made.
Moderator, I second that.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded by Patrick Duggan. Can we have the Finance Committee report on this?
Mr. Moderator, we're in a discussion on this now. Will you go on with discussion?
PJ, do we have a vote on that?
We're finishing it up now, Pete. I'll give it to it, but we can start with discussion, Mr. Moderator.
Okay, so we'll
Raise my
defer the
hand.
Finance Committee recommendation. And we'll move to Thomas Haskins, who has his hand up. And again, we want to try to give everybody a fair chance to speak on these articles. So we ask you to complete your speech in one shot if you can.
I thought you guys voted on this already.
Could we also have the selectmen, let me just mute that. Okay, thank you.
Am I on?
Yes, we've got you now.
Is my understanding this wasn't put out for bid by any contractors? I'm wondering why that was, why this contractor was chosen, and why we are exchanging an unequal amount of land.
Moderator, if I could
thank
ask
you.
Town Council Dave DeLuca to speak on this.
Sure, go ahead. We'll give the floor to, thank you, Mr. Haskins. We'll yield the floor to Town Council David DeLuca to speak on this article. And I do have a number of hands raised up, so we ask you to complete what you got to say and then move on from there. Town Council Dave DeLuca.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Moderator. This is an article that the meeting may be familiar with, as it was brought forward back in November of 2020. And there was considerable discussion at that time. You'll see from the graphic here, there is a considerable amount of land at issue here. There's approximately 5.5 acres of town-owned land that is proposed to be transferred to a private owner developer. in exchange for approximately 2.6 acres of land from the developer to the town. And yes, there is an unequal amount or value in those two in the cumulative value of the property. The 5.5 acres is about approximately $65,000 value, and the 2.6 acres approximately $30,000 of value. This type of exchange is not uncommon, where there is inherent value to each of the parties that are involved. In this case, the town seeks passageway essentially from the I think it's Plymouth Street to other town-owned property to the rear, for what's shown here, in exchange for town-owned property that would be used for development. It is legally permissible. The usual bid process when disposing land requires that we put a land out essentially to bid, but because of our ability to acquire property that is unique and purposeful in this case, it's being proposed to ask the legislature to waive that big bid requirement in favor of this proposal to go forward. The unequal value, again, is not entirely uncommon when the property has a certain unique value to the town, in this case, to create that passageway. It is necessary, of course, to go through traditional appraisal processes, which was completed in March of 2020. You know, these are established values by professional appraisal process. But as I said, it is necessary to approach the legislature to get an exemption from the typical or usual bid laws under Chapter 30B in order to be able to dispose of property in this fashion. I'll leave it to the body to decide the merits of the matter, but it is absolutely a legally permissible process to engage.
Okay, I have quite a few numbers of speakers in order. The first speaker I have is Town Administrator Jim O'Mara, and we will follow this up with the following. Allison Harrison, William Forty, Chris Golden, Charles Greeley, Roberta Mankus, Karen Santorelli, Arthur George, Patrick Duggan, and Thomas Haskins.
Not me, the board.
We are going to move this to the Town Administrator. Jim O'Mara is the next speaker.
Mr. Curran, can I just give the FinCom real quick?
Oh, sure. We got the FinCom back. Great.
The FinCom did not recommend the article. Two voted to recommend, 4 against, 2 abstain.
So 2 in favor, 4 against, and 2 abstain was the Finance Committee recommendation vote.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Duggan. We'll move to Mr. O'Mara.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. By way of background, this question was slated to be on the May 20 annual town meeting, but as you know, COVID hit, and we moved the meeting to June, and it was advised that we should only take up economic articles. So this was put on the back burner. The only knowledge I have about this land swap was obtained from the appraisal that has been on the town's website since November of 2020. And so I'm going to, if I may, Mr. Chairman, just read a few excerpts associated with this.
Briefly, we have quite a number of speakers who wish to talk on this. So if you can summarize and mark your scholarliness with brevity.
Okay. The proposed land swap will allow Mr. Andrews to develop 9-lot residential subdivision, and he will construct a road at his expense. The town will have the right to extend the roadway at the town's expense across the swapped land to allow for alternative access to the K-12 school, athletic and recreational fields. On the day the properties were inspected, Mr. Andrews' property was being used as a private horse farm, much of it clear of wood and somewhat muddy. The town land was covered with dense wood and brush, and there was limited access. The highest and best use of real estate is the fundamental premise upon which the estimate of market value is based. It appears that the proposed land swap will benefit both parties, and it will be the highest and best use of the land. The drawings on pages 18, 19, and 20 of your warrant booklet show the property as it exists today on page 18, what the property lines would look like after the swap, and the conceptual road drawing on page 19. Without breaking the landlocked parcels, neither party will enjoy the highest and best use of their land. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mara, and please stand by as we may have some questions that you may be able to help us to answer. So again, I have an order of speakers: Allison Harrison, William Forty, Chris Golden, Charles Greeley, Karen Santarelli, Arthur George, Thomas Haskins, Steve Zabowski, and Donna Dresser. Use your time wisely to try to convince the other members to vote the way you think is correctly here. And also use your time because of the number of speakers. Try to make it a one-shot deal, and we'll try to get through this and move on to the other articles. So the chair would recognize Allison Harrison next, and would ask Mr. O'Mara to put himself on mute and have HCAM unmute Ms. Harrison. You have the floor.
Can you hear me, Mr. Moderator?
We can hear you. Very good.
Hi, Allison Harrison, Precinct 3. Mr. DeLuca just commented on my first point that I was going to make, that this is an illegal giveaway of public land. Mass General Laws, 30 General Laws, Chapter 30B requires, that this needs to go to bid. He's stating that it's legally permissible. That doesn't mean that it's right or just. In the last Board of Selectmen meeting also, all of the Boards of Selectmen stated that they wanted new maps. I'm still seeing the same maps, so I'm not sure if any new maps have been provided. The second point that I'd like to make is the second potential phase of this, AKA the field project, would actually increase our property taxes. When Attorney Galvin hosted a neighborhood meeting to discuss this, along with proposed developer John Mento, their major pro to this entire deal would be tax relief. When and if the field project goes through, we would have 7 new fields, parking, mowing, plowing, possible connections to the school, which would all need to be monitored. All of this would come at a cost. We've already taken out at least $20,000 in plans on this whole project. My third point is that we have so many other moving parts that this should not take a priority. We have umpteen housing projects underway, water problems, roadway, traffic problems, the housing market's going crazy, and this is all coming at the tail end of a pandemic. I really think we need to fix what we have prior to chasing new pipe dreams. I think this all could potentially sound really good on paper, but lay it out on the field, it's not going to go as planned, and it's going to cost us more money.
Thank you, Ms. Harrison. Do you have anything further to add? Because we do have a long list of speakers.
That was all.
Great, thank you. Well done. Appreciate your speaking tonight. The chair recognizes William Forty.
Good evening, Mr. Moderator, members of the town body. William Forty, Precinct 3, also Conservation Commission Chairman. I've got some grave concern about this project. Firstly, being that most type of development projects like this, especially with a significant amount of resource areas in this particular property, usually have to come for some kind of public hearing. The Conservation Commission was not consulted at all about any of this. It was never brought to our attention, nor was it, were we even asked of an opinion. I find it shocking that the authority of all the boards and commissions in the town have been subverted simply by the ability to be able to ask for a waiver on a state law, which I think would be okay, but only under the condition that this project be brought in under public hearing, both with the planning board and with the Conservation Commission. I mean, I just think that this is I think that this is a little bit premature because the public has not had a chance to weigh in on this and see what the long-term impacts are of this property. And believe me, I'm a person who is pro-development. I think responsible development's a good thing, but I think in this case, we're a little bit too early on it. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Forty. We do have a number of speakers lined up next. The chair would recognize Chris Golden next, We also have in line Charles Greeley, Karen Santarelli, Arthur George, Thomas Haskins, Steve Zabowski, Donna Dresser, and I have attorney Gregory Galvin also here. I believe he's representing one of the parties involved. Chair recognizes Chris Golden.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chris Golden, Precinct 3, and I'm also the chair of the current planning board. Excuse me. As Mr. Forty said, I wasn't aware that the conservation was totally unaware of this project. It was brought to our attention before all the COVID and everything came about. Essentially, we're looking at the same plan. And unfortunately, what you can't see in this plan is the abutting properties. And I know that someone made mention to it earlier, which would help quite a bit to make a realistic determination of what you're actually looking at. But if you could see the other abutters, they're private landowners that would be on either side of the blue, which obviously wouldn't be of any benefit or help to the town at all. Once you get past that wavy lined area, which is a wetlands delineation or a temporary or an intermittent stream, I believe, anything inside of that is basically useless to the town. And on the abutter on either side being a private landowner, they wouldn't have access to it anyway. The long yellow strip is what the town would be getting in this land swap. Seems like short change, but it's obviously we own the land directly on either side of the darker yellow portions of property, which is what that would help the town to be able to link between these properties. And that was the main goal. I understand they're talking about costs down the road and this and that. That's all well and good, but this is strictly for the land swap to give the town the ability, if they so chose, to do that in the future. This isn't a giveaway. The dollar swap is kind of irrelevant on this because it's where the property is and what it offers to both parties that the value is in. It's a much more valuable piece of land to the town, that small yellow strip, than what they're conveying to the private landowner. Other people may see it differently, and that's all well and good, but we did go over it. Unfortunately, not in great detail. And again, unfortunately, you can't see the abutters, which is not great to make a determination of what you're actually looking at. But again, from what we saw, that long strip of land is much more beneficial to the town than anything that they're giving to the other landowner, being that the town has no access to it or no real use for it. And it's cut off basically by an intermittent stream that would render it useless to almost anybody other than the abutting landowner. And hopefully that answers some of the questions for you. But again, there are still a lot of questions, and it's something that we only looked at briefly quite a while ago, and that's basically was our take on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Golden. Chair recognizes next in order is Charles Greeley. Wait for the prompt to unmute, please. I think you got it. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. In my opinion, we're doing too much residential development for our one K through 12 school to absorb. When the zoning change for the South School was before town meeting several years ago to increase the density of the zoning, the school committee indicated that the school is already full. We do not want an overcrowded classrooms. It's bad for the town, it's bad for our property values, and most importantly, it's bad for our kids. So to prevent this new development, I would ask that the town meeting members vote no to this question, because that would essentially kill this development. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Greeley. Coming up in order, I have the following speakers: Arthur George, Thomas Haskins, Stephen Zabowski, Donna Dresser, Roberta Mankus, Attorney Gregory, and Jim O'Mara. Actually just Attorney Gregory now. Chair recognizes Arthur George. Attorney Gregory Galvin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Moderator, I should say.
I used to do the planning board, not anymore.
Well, you're
I
chairman of
like
the
them.
Zoom. One thing I would point out to the town meeting members is the location of this proposed road on Plymouth Street. I mean, this is right after Avini's Cleaners on the way to the Holbrook Square on the other side. So, you know, you've got a straight line on Abington Ave to through Plymouth Street. And it doesn't make sense to put a road that close. I don't know what traffic studies they've had, if any, that have looked at the density of that, but I'd be very concerned about the location of that in proximity of where it is on Plymouth Street. Also, the town, when they, in the 60s, I believe, when they first started taking all of the land for school purposes with the idea that it would be in reserve in case there was another population boom, was to have a continuous run of land from the sort of the slower side of Plymouth Street, if you will, to where our present school building is in town. And obviously, if the town were to construct some kind of a road connecting that part of Plymouth Street to the school at some point, with the idea that they would create some, you know, educational or recreational areas, that seems to me to be a better purpose. When I saw this, I had to think that it may be time for the town to have a planning and engineering board where they can actually look at long-term planning. And in any event, I hope you'll consider these issues in making a decision.
Thank you, Arthur. George. Coming up in speakers, we have Thomas Haskins, Steve Zabowski, Roberta Mankus, then Attorney Gregory Galvin, and then Christopher Harrison. The chair recognizes Thomas Haskins.
Thank you. My threefold question remained entirely unanswered. I asked why this developer was chosen, why it wasn't put up for public bidding, and I forget the third part. I'm guessing the reason is because this particular developer had the land we wanted. You can respond to that in a sec. I think that's the answer to all three of my questions, but I'd like to make a motion that we refer this to the standard process of public meetings before it's brought before us for a vote of yes or no.
The motion doesn't seem to be in order. To refer it to a standard process of public meetings doesn't make any sense.
Well, I don't know why the head of the commission.
This is a public meeting.
Well, the head of the Conservation Commission said these normally go through a full public meeting process, and this hasn't. So I'm confused.
So you can make a motion to refer this, for example, to the planning board for further study or something like that. That
Okay,
would be what a motion to refer would be.
Okay, I would like to make a motion. We do that and refer it to the Conservation Commission as well.
Okay, so could you read your motion on the floor?
I would like to make a motion to refer this article to the Planning Board and the Conservation Commission before we vote a yes or no on it.
Motion has been made by Mr. Haskins to refer this article to the Planning Board and Conservation Commission.
I second that.
This is a second by, we have several seconds. Allison Harrison has the second. Motion has been made and seconded. Motion is debatable. Could I ask, because we're moving into a motion on this article to commit or refer this, we'd like to dispose of this motion first, and then we can move back to the article if it's not successful. What I would like to do is have folks, I've got your names down here. Please lower your hands. And
excuse me, Mr. Moderator, you have a point of information.
Thank you. Mr. Golden, what's your point of information? Chris Golden from the Planning Board. I'm just going to ask you to unmute. Chair recognizes Chris Golden for a point of information, and the point of information should be germane to just the general health and well-being of the body. It shouldn't be debate about the article.
It's to the motion that was made. This project would not move forward at all as is by either party. This is strictly for the land swap for the other landowner to be able to tentatively build this project. If he did decide to do this, it would have to go before all boards in town. This isn't an approval at all. All this is, this article is strictly for the land swap. And there is no guarantee that he even would be able to build this project. This is what he would like to do with it, but it's not a guarantee that he can or will be able to. This is just him giving the land to the town to get the land that he needs to possibly be able to build this in the future.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Golden. This technically is not a point of information, by the way. Point of information, just the health and well-being of the body, but this is okay. We're in deliberations about the motion to refer. Is there anybody else who wants to discuss or deliberate the motion by Mr. Haskins to refer this to the Planning Board and Conservation Commission? Please raise your hand now. Chair recognizes Roberta Mankus. Limit discussion to the motion to commit or to refer.
Can you hear me, Mr. Moderator?
I can hear you, Ms. Mankus.
Thank you very much. Obviously, originally I had something else to speak on, but I understand now which we're trying to speak on whether indeed this should be something that is sent to the Planning Board and the Conservation Commission before we vote on it. Is that what I understand?
Yes, there's a motion on the floor that would take this particular article and refer it to the Planning Board and Conservation Commission. That is what the current debate is about.
Okay, well, I think many people in town know my view on this, and as much as it sounds like if we do that, then it goes away for a while. I think it might have been Mr. Golden that spoke before me, but I tend to agree with him. I think we're just going to end up right back here again because of exactly what he said. This is about a swap. I think we need to deal with this tonight. That's just my opinion. And I'm afraid that people are going to look at this like, oh yeah, you know, this is great, it will go away. It's not going to go away right now. And like Mr. Golden said, unless there's someone on the conservation or the planning board that would like to help me understand a little bit better, help everyone understand a little better, I'm not sure doing this right now is going to actually do anything at all. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Ms. Mankus. The chair recognizes, we're going to do, I have two hands up. First is Town Administrator, Interim Town Administrator Jim O'Mara. Can we have him unmuted? Please confine your comments to the motion that's on the floor, which is a motion to refer to the Planning Board and Conservation Commission, and not arguments on the merits of the land swap.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. In regards to the motion that's on the floor, there is nothing to refer to any town board. That was a conceptual rendering to give people an idea of what could happen. There are no solid plans to go before any of our boards because the design has not been complete. This is a conceptual rendering. When that time comes, the approval process for any development will be required of this proposed development. Again, this is a rendering to give people an idea. It's not something that would go before a board, I believe. So there'd be no action if you referred it. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Attorney Gregory Galvin. He was voted to allow to speak at the opening of the meeting.
Mr. Curran, is my hand not up? You only mentioned two hands up, and I had my
will
hand
get
up the whole
to,
time.
we see other
Okay.
hands coming up, so.
That's
Trying
fine.
to keep
Thank
track
you.
of them here.
No,
It's
no,
a
that's
little
fine. I
easier
just
with
wanted.
this, but not, yeah, we
that's
got
fine.
everybody, I think. Make sure you put your hand back up again if it's not up. Attorney Gregory Galvin was given permission to speak at the opening of the meeting by the body. Attorney Galvin, you have the floor. Please confine your comments to the motion at hand, which is to refer this article back to the Planning Board and Conservation Commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. And I agree with Mr. O'Mara. The potential purchaser of the property that is shown in yellow, or where the road is, would only be able to file with the Conservation Commission and Planning Board, both of which he would have to if he ever acquired the property, is if he either has ownership of it or under a purchase and sales agreement or some document that gave him the authority to then make application to the board. So until the town takes action on this article or some similar article, the proposed developer would not be able to legally file with those boards. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to try to get some folks that we haven't heard from before. Chair recognizes Stephen Zabowski. Again, we're debating the article to refer to the Planning Board and Conservation Commission on the motion. Stephen Zabowski. We got you now, Stephen. Yeah.
Excellent. Steve Zabowski, Precinct 2. And I'm just going to reiterate prior to this particular motion that the developer and or landowner, if this is a plan of an idea of what could be done if this land swap, or potentially could be done if this land swap was approved by town meeting. So I see no reason why they wouldn't want to approve it, as the town boards still would have some say over what goes on and how this road could or would be developed. And I don't know if I can get into a second portion, but 700 feet of roadway paid by a developer is a great expense that the town wouldn't have to take on if they tried to access this property another way.
Okay, so let's just stick the article for referral.
Okay,
And that's more, I think that's more on the lines of, we're talking about whether to send it to the legislature or not. But
Okay.
we'll get you in to comment on that too, if this motion to.
All right, so I'm sticking this with the motion is.
Yeah,
there's
just to refer, yeah, right now.
3 others have said the same thing, is that it still has to go in front of the boards.
Mhm.
And why not let that happen? So I would like to see town meeting vote to have this land swapped, and the boards can make the decisions on how this is going to work with
Great.
the private owner.
Thank you, appreciate that.
You.
Okay, I'm going to recognize, again, we'll go a little bit out of order from people we haven't heard from. Chair recognizes Ronald Kaplan.
Why don't we just make the article that there's a condition preceding to the swap that the development gets approval from the various boards and goes through the process. And if it's successful, then we have the swap. And if we don't have a successful process, then the swap doesn't happen. And that way we're not spinning wheels backwards. Why would we make a swap and give somebody land and take a loss if it doesn't happen? Because if it doesn't happen, we're not going to get that road that goes in there.
Okay, let's keep the comments only restricted to the motion to refer back to the Conservation Commission.
Okay, so as I say,
we're not debating the main article yet.
I apologize.
No, that's okay. Completely
The
understandable.
the point is that it's imperative that they go through the entire process first. And then if they're going to be able to do it, then make the swap. Because if we swap it first, and then they go through the process and they don't get approval, we don't get the benefit of that road, because they're not going to build that road if they can't get the swap. So I think that has to be a condition preceding to the actual swap. And I'd ask that we consider that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kaplan. Before we proceed further, the chair is going to recognize Mr. Haskins.
Yeah, about 6 speakers ago, I wanted to try to withdraw my motion. This system is not a good system, but it's all we have right now. In lieu of my motion, I'd just like to encourage the town meeting members to vote against this, but I do want to withdraw my motion.
Okay, so you're going to make a motion here to withdraw your motion to refer. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, on a motion from Mr. Haskins to withdraw his previous motion to refer. Let me just check the manual on the quantum of the vote for that. motion does not require a second. It's not that it does require a majority to allow him to withdraw. There'll be a vote here to allow Mr. Haskins to withdraw Mr. Haskins' motion to withdraw. All those in favor,
Has it been seconded, Jim?
it's not second, it's not required for this.
Sorry.
Yeah, well, doesn't matter. It's what the book says. So all of those in favor of withdrawing the motion, or allowing Mr. Haskins to withdraw his motion, vote yes. All those opposed to allowing Mr. Haskins' motion to be withdrawn, vote no. I think we've got most of the votes in. I'm going to share the results. There were 97 in favor of withdrawing the motion to refer. There were 3 opposed to withdrawing the motion to refer. The motion to refer is hereby withdrawn. We will move back to debate on the main motion. The main motion is for the town to approve that the Board of Selectmen to petition the general court to enact the legislation as indicated in the warrant provided the general court may reasonably vary the form and substance of the requested legislation within the scope of general public objectives of the position of the petition. We'll now open the floor to general discussion on the motion that is on the floor, which is the main motion on Article 21. Chair recognizes Patrick Duggan first.
I wanted to speak on the last article. That's my point of order. I know you have a lot of discretion, so I'm not complaining, but are you going in order with the hands raised? Because I thought when Mr. Hanson spoke and I wanted to speak in favor of his motion, and then I think you just cherry picked. So I just want to make sure we're doing it.
Yeah, one of the things we're trying to do here is to allow everybody the opportunity to speak, and that may mean not strict order.
Speak at all or speak on the motion?
The right to speak at the town meeting is subject to the discretion of the moderator at all times.
I understand.
And I do allow everybody to speak. What we'll try to do here tonight, in all fairness and in limited time, is to hear from people that we haven't heard from already.
I understand that, Jim, but I want to make sure I'm clear that, excuse me, Mr. Moderator, are you talking at all or just on each motion? Because I may have comments on every motion. I don't want to have my comments.
No, we're taking each motion individually.
Okay, thank you.
Is a thing, and we're trying to be fair. And we
No,
want to make sure people get heard.
I appreciate that.
So,
I do want to.
It may go, to answer your question, it may go out of order. It may seem a little random, but we'll get to everybody.
I just wanted to be clear. I realize you have a lot of discretion, and that's fine. It's a tough job. I appreciate it. Seriously.
Thank you. You want to
since
talk on the article now?
Yeah,
So
very quick.
You were the first one I gave the floor to.
I know.
That argument.
I didn't know what you were doing. Sorry, I
All
apologize.
right. Well, you're going to talk on the article, or you're done?
Yes, very quickly, because I just said, I wanted to refer, I know the article's closed, refer it back, because I think what I'm hearing from everybody, the land swap, and I understand the arguments against it, I did prefer it, but I think there's a lot of information. I think by bringing it back, if we could refer it again, back to the selectmen, whoever, that the presentation be better. We did not get a good map. I know I suggested before getting a good map, that map is horrible. It does not show the benefit to the town whatsoever. I think a better presentation needs to be done. They can present it to the Conservation Commission, who doesn't have to vote. It can be informative. They can bring it to the planning board, be informative, give the town more information, because right now, all we're seeing is they're building it, they're going to put in a development, and the town may get some land. And then there's this field committee, which is a different thing, but now that's the rumors that are out there. So I think more information needs to be done and presentation to be done better. So I would hope at this point, if someone can make a motion to refer it back, I think that would be the best idea.
Okay,
So
so we did have a motion to refer it back, and that motion was withdrawn by.
I understand. I'm making a plea to somebody else. I'm not going to make that motion myself.
Yeah, I think your course forward here is to argue against the article.
Well, that's the thing. I don't want out of the article. Then that I say move the question. Let's move this on. I think everyone stated what needs to be said. I think move the question.
You would like to move the question?
Yeah, because I think there's nothing else to be said.
Okay, could I ask a little bit of indulgence? I do have a few speakers here.
Jim, yes, I would just like, if we start getting repetitive, Jim, could you move the question for me then?
Yeah, let me move back to you. I do want to make sure, in all fairness, that folks that we haven't heard from have a chance to speak on the article and make their case as well. I think that's what's fair to do. So we'll show that you're not going to make that motion right now, but Please raise your hand if you feel like you're ready to make that motion, and I'll get you in there. So I want to call on Linda Ferrari. Chair recognizes Linda Ferrari.
I rise to, hi, can you hear me?
We can.
I rise to make a motion to close debate and vote on Article 21.
Very good. So I think this is the same motion that Mr. Duggan wanted to
Yes.
make, and that kind of shows me we're in the direction of going that way. So your motion, and the correct motion would be to move the question. And is there a second on the motion to move the question? Let me just check and see if somebody types that in. Is there a second?
I'll second it for sure.
Okay, so I thought Mr. Duggan might, so we get all kinds of seconds. So there's a motion on the floor to move the question. This means we will terminate debate on this issue and move to a vote on the issue. The motion to terminate debate and move the question requires a 2/3 majority. Poll will come up on the screen. All those in favor of terminating debate and moving directly to a vote on the main question, please vote yes. All those opposed to terminating debate, continue debate.
I'm not going to vote.
All of those opposed to continuing debate, vote no.
Oh.
I'm just waiting for the rest of the votes to come in here. Motion on the floor is to terminate debate and move directly to a vote on the question at hand. I'm just waiting for a few more votes to come in. Okay, I think we've got just about everyone. We're going to share the results of the poll here. There are 72 in favor of terminating debate, 28 opposed. That's 72 in favor, 28 opposed, 72 to 28%. That carries by more than a 2/3 majority. We will move immediately to vote on the main question without debate. All those in favor of the motion that's on the floor, they move that the town approve that the Board of Selectmen to petition the General Court to enact legislation as indicated in the warrant, provided that the General Court may reasonably vary the form and substance of the requested legislation within the scope of the general public objectives of the petition. All those in favor, this is a simple majority vote. Please vote yes. All those opposed to sending this to General Court for consideration, please vote no. Poll voting is open. We'll give a few more minutes for the vote to come in. And it looks like we stopped incrementing. I'm going to share the results here. There are 103 out of 107, actually 109 voting. There were 27 in favor of the motion. There were 76 opposed to the motion. Let me just record that. 27 in favor, 76 opposed. This motion only required a majority. Motion on Article 21 has been defeated. I just want to make a comment. I know there was some concern that folks didn't all get a chance to speak under the rules that we operate. If a motion is made to consider terminating the debate, then all speakers in line are preempted, and we move right to that. That's part of the rules of moving questions. So my apologies, we didn't get to you. We're trying to get to everybody and get everybody heard, but the rules do state that if we move a question, that we terminate debate at that point. Okay, let's move on now to Article number 22. This is the drainage pipe repairs between Riviera and Rindon Street. Chairman Lee, would you clear to read?
Moderator, I move the town appropriates $500,000.00 to pay cost of repairs and or replacement of the drainage pipe between Riviera Street and Rindon Street, approximately 400 feet, including design, bidding, and construction costs, and any other costs incidental or related thereto, and that to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, is authorized to borrow said amount under and pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 1(7)(1), or any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds or notes of the town. Therefore, any premiums received upon the sale of any bonds or notes approved by this vote, less any such premium applied to the payment of the cost or issuance of such bonds or notes, may be applied to the payment of costs approved by this vote in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 44, subsection 20, thereby reducing the amount authorized to be borrowed to pay such costs by a like amount.
On the motion made by Mr. Lee,
With
If there's a-
second,
motion has been made and seconded. Can we have the Finance Committee
Finance Committee
recommendation?
recommend 8-0.
Thank you, Finance Committee recommending 8-0. Mr. Lee, would you care to tee off the article discussion? The motion.
So I know that this was Superintendent Pelletier put this in. He left some notes here that the drainage trunk line within Riviera Acres is a vintage 1950s that extends approximately 2,625 linear feet from the outfall on the 14 Dresser Ave parcel behind 10 Revere Street to the intersection of Bradford and Rosine Road. The trunk line varies in diameter from 12 inch to 36 inch and is constructed of corrugated metal pipe. Several emergency repairs to the drainage trunk line have been performed by the town recently in response to a 36-inch pipe failure, and the result sinkholes on James Street and 10 Revere Street. Excavations and assessments have been exposed to form pipe with buckling walls and severely deteriorated pipe with no pipe bottom in some cases. The existing pipe alignment is located under the attached garage at number 10 Revere Street, making repairs at this location intrusive and costly. Due to the poor condition of the pipe, high levels of debris have submerged conditions during inspection. Only 539 linear feet, or approximately 20% of the trunk line, was observed on August 8, 2018. The sewer segment were generally found to be in poor condition with evidence of corrosion throughout the 6 locations of either buckling, deformed pipe wall, or a hole in the pipe. Using the pipeline assessment and certification program standards, the deformed pipe locations were graded S5, meaning the most severe defect structural in nature. Other defects observed include infiltration, settled deposits, and external pipe/cable intruding through the pipe. To address the immediate issues between Riviera Street and Rindon, the Department of Public Works is looking into a phasing approach to replace the drainage between Riviera Street and Rindon, approximately 400 feet, which is estimated at $500,000, which includes design, building, and construction.
Any further discussion on the motion on Article 22? Chair recognizes Michael Sigda.
Thank you. This is Mike Sigda, Precinct 2. FinCom, I have I guess a couple thoughts after we voted this. I believe this is the first of 3 phases, each to cost about $500,000. So the total cost of this work may end up costing $1.5 million. And the second part is, I never really got comfortable that this was the town's liability as opposed to the homeowner. So I wonder if we could speak to that, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sigda. Chairman Lee, I'm not sure if you want to respond or not. You're not
Well,
required
maybe,
to, by the way.
So the sinkholes in the roads are clearly the town's responsibility. The pipes are going down Bradford Street, James Street, and it cuts through number 10 Revere Street going out to the outfall at on South Franklin Street. So it doesn't make sense to fix what's in the road that we have, but leave the broken pipe at 10 Revere Street. So I would say that it is definitely our responsibility. Or we're going to continue to have roads that keep having sinkholes in them throughout the whole neighborhood.
Thank you, Chairman Lee. Chair recognizes Patrick Duggan.
I'm going to echo what the Chairman of the Selectmen said, Select Board said, and say, well, this costs money. I think one of the major discussions we had yesterday in the budget is the poor state of our roads and our infrastructure, and now we're trying to put money towards that. So I would think this, we voted for the 140,000 for roads. I would think this is exactly what Mr. Costa or it was the speakers were talking about yesterday is improvements to our infrastructure, and this is exactly what this is. These things cost money, unfortunately.
Thank you, Mr. Duggan. The chair recognizes Kevin Costa.
I didn't think Kevin was here tonight.
Good evening. Yeah, I was out at the field. I'm here now. Sorry, I'm here. Just on the so the only question I would have is the roads. Obviously, I would think is our responsibility. I'm trying to understand: is this on private property that we would be taking care of something? And I'm more about the long-term implications of us doing repairs to drainage systems on private property, and what the implication is for that in the future if somebody has a similar situation, or not similar, but an issue on their property. Does that then make us responsible for that? So I'm trying to understand what the line is of why we're responsible if it is on private property versus when we won't be responsible when it's on private property. And maybe somebody can speak to that.
Mr. Moderator, I'm going to
wait a second.
at this time turn it over to the town attorney.
Yeah, before we get there is Mr. Costa. Are you finished with your presentation?
Yeah. Yes, I'm already.
Thank you.
Yep.
You want to turn this over to town council for our discussion about that? I believe Chair will call on Dave DeLuca.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator and members. This is a very unusual situation where we have mechanical structural items that are both on private property and on public owned property, streets in particular. There is the notion of a betterment or special assessment when there is public works projects that benefit exclusively private property. That's under Chapter 80 of the general laws. I have some concern about this qualifying as a betterment, as it benefit the entire community, as opposed to just exclusively one, two, or more private property owners. I think there is the public scope to this, as opposed to simply a private benefit. However, I do agree that there is a betterment process under Chapter 80 that could be engaged in order to determine that. I'm not sure that has been entirely vetted with this case, but it is, as it stands, not a whole lot different than other public works projects that occur across the community.
Thank you, Ms. Counselor. Before we recognize Kevin Costa, I know you weren't here earlier. We do have articles tonight where we have a large number of people wishing to speak. We're asking that the speakers on an article speak on the article, say all they're going to say in one shot, and let somebody else have the floor. And we're going to hold on to that. That may mean I call people out of order so we hear from new people. It may mean I may limit you to one time on the floor for an article. This is under the moderator's discretion. The chair gives the floor to Kevin Costa.
Mr. Moderator, so based on the information you just received from Mr. DeLuca, I would make a motion to refer this back to the Board of Selectmen to investigate that betterment process. And I wouldn't think that the entirety of the $500,000 cost would be a betterment to a couple of homeowners, but I would think that some portion of that would be a betterment to some individual property owners. So with that, that's why I'm making a motion to refer it back to the Board of Selectmen to review that process.
Moderator.
Mr. Lee, hold on a minute. There's a motion on the floor. On a motion by Mr. Costa to refer back to the selectmen.
Second,
Who was that seconded the motion?
Mike Sigda, precinct 2.
Mike Sigda is, precinct 2 has seconded the motion. Motion is made in second. Chair recognized. Ms. Kevin, do you have any other, well, before we move to discussion, you made the motion to refer back. Do you have any further discussion on the motion to refer back?
No, I think I said all of why I was making the motion. I'm good.
Okay, Kevin Costa, yield the floor. Chair recognizes Selectman Lee. Keep discussion limited to the motion to refer it back to the Board of Selectmen.
So I'm a little confused. Okay, so it's our pipe. It runs through our streets, and then it goes into a person's yard to get to the other side of the street, to get to an outfall. And there's an easement that was taken. So I'm just confused as why it would be on the homeowner if it's a pipe that's broken.
Chairman Lee, the discussion is limited to the motion to refer back to the Board
Common
of
sense is
Selectmen.
not prevailing here.
Mr. Lee, yielding the floor, you all set?
Yeah, I'm also.
Okay, thank you. Chair recognizes Patrick Duggan. Again, keep the comments limited to the motion to refer back. If the motion fails, we can discuss the article.
I don't think there's any reason to refer this back. I think it's discussed. I think Mr. Lee, I understand Kevin's point, but we're not building this, the referring it back is not getting information because as Mr. Chairman has pointed out, the biggest issue is the pipes that we own, and we know this. It's on the town to fix it, and it's causing damage to someone's houses, or what, I mean, not sure the damage, but I do know from the petition received that it's affecting the houses. It's not the house that had a problem coming to us. It's, you know, we created this issue. I think it's only fair. I don't see the point of referring it. It's just delaying the inevitable. We should be fixing this. We want to fix streets and roads. This is what we have to do.
Very good. Seeing no further hands, we'll launch the vote to refer it back to the Board of Selectmen on the motion by Mr. Costa. This is a simple majority vote. All those in favor of referring this back to the Board of Selectmen signify by voting yes. All those opposed to referring this back to the Board of Selectmen signify by voting no. Simple majority vote. Polling is open. We still have some votes coming in. Okay, we're going to end the voting here and sharing the results. We have 13 in favor of referring it back to the Board of Selectmen. We have 83 opposed. 14% of 13 did not want to refer it back. 83% did want to refer it back. 83 people do not want to refer it back, so the motion is not referred back. That motion does not carry. We now move back to discussion on the main motion in hand. Is there any further discussion on the motion for the drainage pipe repair under Article 22? Please raise your hand now. Seeing no further discussion on the article, the motion on Article 22, the motion is to move that the town appropriates $500,000 to pay the cost of the repair and replacement of drainage pipe between Riviera Street and Rindon Street, approximately 400 feet, including design, bidding, construction costs, and any other costs incidental or related thereto. And to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, is authorized to borrow said amount under and pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 7(1), or any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds and notes of the town. Therefore, any premium received upon the sale of any bonds and notes approved by this vote, less any premium applied to the payment of the cost of issuance of the bond and notes, may be applied to the payment of costs approved by this vote in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 20, thereby reducing the amount of authorized borrowed to pay such a cost by this like amount. Because this article involves borrowing, it does require a 2/3 majority in the affirmative to vote. All those in favor of the motion on Article 22, please vote yes. All those opposed, vote no. We have just one or two more votes trickling in here. And we'll end the polling shortly. And we're ending and sharing it now. There being 86 in favor and 11 opposed. 89% in favor. The motion meets the test of a 2/3 majority, and the motion on Article 22 is carried. We're going to move to Article number 23. Chair is going to recognize, I believe this is a planning board article. Chairman Golden, are you available? Could we unmute Chris Golden, please?
Yes, this is Chris Golden.
Would you like to make the main motion on Article 23?
Yeah, this article is not presented by the planning board. It's
Oh, it is.
presented-
Oh, it's not. Okay, who's the presenter of this
But
article?
But I was gonna raise my hand to speak on it.
Okay,
but
well, why don't you hold off
that's
on
fine,
that then?
that's fine,
Let me
that's
see who's
fine.
making the main motion here. Chairman Lee, are you making the main motion? Who's the motioner?
The petition.
Chair
Mr.
recognizes.
Moderator,
Yeah, Mr. Lee. Go ahead. Chairman Lee.
hold on one second. I move that the town amend the zoning bylaw by adding townhouse overlay district to section 2.3 and by adding the townhouse overlay district as set forth in section 9.7 as printed in the warrant.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Could we have the planning board, the finance committee recommendation?
Finance Committee recommends 7-1.
Thank you. And the chair would like to recognize now Chris Golden, the chairman of the planning board. Chairman of the planning board, we asked the question, has this been properly heard and held in accordance with the bylaw, and what is the recommendation of the planning board on this article?
Yes, this was reviewed by the planning board. It was recommended by the planning board. And one of the main reasons we recommended it is because these overlay districts tend to produce, I know it was mentioned several times already in regards to another article, much less school-age children into our town. And not that having young kids is a bad thing, but with a school that's already busting at the seams, it's not a great thing right now. And this is, once again, this is article just for language. You're not approving a district, you're not approving a project, you're not approving anything other than language. This developer, if he does decide to go forward, still needs to go through all the proper boards and procedures as any other developer would in town. And again, this was just some modifications to some current language to accommodate this particular developer to be able to move forward.
Okay, could we have the finance committee recommendation again?
8-0.
8-0 in favor.
Absolutely.
The chair is aware of two proposed amendments. I'd like to have town council be available. The chair is recognizing Eva Troseth. Could we locate her? EWA is the spelling for his first name. And she would like to make a motion on this article. The motion seems to be simply typographical or simply actually a minor change to section 976-2. Maybe we can scroll down to that location.
Part of the interruption, Mr. Curran, it was a 7-1 vote. I've been
I'm sorry,
corrected.
7-1 for the FinCom.
Yes,
Okay,
yeah,
thank
there's someone
you.
to vote in opposition.
Okay, and if we can scroll down to 976-2. Continue scrolling down, please. To 976-2. I don't see a section 976-2. Let's go back to it again. This would be, let's see if we can figure out where this is. I'm not sure if the numbering changed or something. There's a reference to the Conservation Commission here somewhere.
It's under procedures.
Procedures, which section
Yes.
is that?
976.
Okay, there is, we're not seeing a 976 in the document that's up here. It may have been renumbered.
Excuse me, Mr. Moderator.
Yes.
We were not given that document, so we cannot display it.
Okay, so it's section 976. Is there a section here with the, I'm trying to figure out if this motion is still germane because it's not here.
It's
you
in
know,
the warrant.
It's in the warrant itself?
Yeah, it's just not on the screen. It is in the warrant.
Okay.
So I
so
would see.
section
Actually, I
9
just saw it on a screen. Please scroll down. Number 2, where wetland delineation is in doubt.
Okay, so I see this might be a typo. Maybe we meant to say 956, number 2. Okay,
Okay.
you, Smith, go ahead and make your motion to amend. Then we'll look for a second on that motion, and then we'll ask the counselor to make sure that this does not exceed the hearing requirements for the law.
Thank you. I move to amend the Article 23 Townhouse Overlay District, paragraph 9-7-6, number 2, by striking the word may and inserting a word will. The reason for it that I think if we have a dispute or doubt regarding wetlands delineation, it is up to a planning board and conservation commission to require documents that will prove that we're not encroaching on wetlands.
Motion has been made and seconded by Ms. Greeley. We'll move to discussion on the motion. First from Town Council Dave DeLuca. Dave, does this one fall within the hearing requirements for the planning board? I think it's pretty minor.
Yes, Mr. Moderator, it is within the scope and therefore it is permissible.
Very good. We'll move to debate on this motion to amend first. I know there are other motions and things going on. We'll dispose of the motion to amend one at a time first. So first of all, I would like to, if anybody who does not want to speak just on the motion to amend, change the language in section 2 here to say that the planning board will require, or rather than may require, please lower your hands. If you wish to speak to this amendment, please raise your hands and we'll start recognizing you in order. Chair recognizes Charles Greeley. Confine your discussion to the topic of changing the wording, not the entire article, just changing the wording.
Sorry, my hand was raised on the entire article.
Thank you. Please lower your hand and we'll get to that in a minute. Chair recognizes Roberta Mankus. Same statement. The discussion is around the change of the word may to will and not the entire zoning article.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Again, I apologize also. I was waiting to talk on the full article. I apologize, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Patrick Duggan.
I think we should, I want to move the question on this one because I think it's a simple one.
I think you're the last speaker, so.
Well, then
let's
that's
save-
easy.
Let's just save the vote. Okay. This is a simple majority to amend it. And a simple majority to amend it, it amends section 956 procedures by replacing the word, the planning board may require appropriate documentation to the planning board will require.
No.
We'll go to a vote. All those in favor of changing that language, please vote yes. All those opposed, please vote no. We still have a few votes trickling in. We'll get rid of these amendments, move them off one way or another, and then we'll move to the main motion. Looks like things are slowing down a little bit here now. Okay, and this is pretty clear. This motion to amend is passed by 86-9. When we vote on the main motion, the word may will be replaced with the word will. Chair recognizes Mr. Costa, who I believe you have another motion. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Moderator, and after this, I would have another motion just to make things clear. So this first motion is to move to amend the main motion by inserting into section 9.7.9. Each dwelling unit shall have a maximum of 2 bedrooms. And Mr. Moderator, this is in line with the
Okay,
overlay
let's make,
district.
let's make the motion and then
Sorry.
we'll make arguments against it, for and
Second.
against it.
I
Motion
second.
has been made and seconded. Again, we defer to town council. The motion on the floor is to amend the planning board article. There are some certain statutory things about amending planning board articles that we have to be careful of. And we have to make sure that they don't exceed what the limits of the thing that was heard was. So this is why I'm deferring to council for each one of these. Town council, the motion on the floor is to amend the main motion by inserting into section 979. Each dwelling unit shall have a maximum of 2 bedrooms.
Yes, Mr. Moderator, that is within the scope and permissible.
Motion, okay, the motion is in scope and permissible. All those, Mr. Costa, you have the motion, you have your hand up. Do you wish to speak to your amendment?
Yes, please.
Go ahead.
So this is in line with the overlay district that we put in place for the South School a couple of years ago. It does what I think everybody wants, which is it allows development, but it allows smart development and that not to increase resources in our schools. It's a balanced approach that allows a developer to develop the property for what we would like to be, which is either young families starting out that don't need additional bedrooms, or retirees, or empty nesters, or that type of person, or divorcees, whatever it might be, but that wouldn't increase to the service levels within the town. So I think that this is well within what we did a couple of years ago, and it should still make a profitable project for the developer and good for the town. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Costa. The chair recognizes Chris Golden.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to comment on what Mr. Costa just said, the language that was put in for the South School project was put in by the planning board. And that's one of the things that I was getting at earlier. You know, when these projects have to go through all the boards after this process anyway, that's one of the reasons why we were in favor of this, is because we have the ability to be able to put that language in ourselves also as conditional on any project. And that was one of the things that we had already presented to the developer that would probably be a condition anyway. But if it's in here, it's already in black and white, and that's fine either way. But that was already one of the main reasons we were in favor of this, is because it doesn't usually produce school-age children in a 2-bedroom condo.
That's everything, Chris, for this motion?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Chair recognizes interim town administrator Jim O'Mara. Again, comments are confined to the motion to amend.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Just a point of clarification. The townhouse overlay district in the zoning bylaws is 9.7, not 9.5.
Okay, so some typographical errors here. I think we're probably okay with that. Town council, do you have any objection to marking this as it looks like the what we're showing here is misnumbered compared to what the actual article is?
Yes, Mr. Moderator, I think the members have in the warrant the article as it has
the correct number.
Right, correct language.
Okay, so it's just a display problem.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. O'Mara. Any further discussion on the motion by Kevin Costa to amend? Seeing no further hands, we'll move to a vote on the motion to amend. Motion to amend Article 23 by Kevin Costa, and the motion would take section 979 and insert into that section the language, each dwelling unit shall have a maximum of 2 bedroom units. Motion to amend requires a simple majority vote. It does not approve the main article. It only modifies the main article, which will be voted on later on. So this is actually just voting on the amendment, and we're going to vote on the amendment only. Polling will start now. All those in favor of the amendment by Mr. Costa to have the maximum 2 bedrooms vote yes. All those opposed vote no. Okay, looks like most of the voting is in. We're going to stop the poll now and share the results. There being 71 in favor of the amendment and 26 opposed. That's 71 in favor and 26 opposed. The motion to amend carries, and the main article is now amended by that language that we just added. Let me go back to Mr. Costa here. Chair recognizes Kevin Costa. I think you had another amendment.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, if I could move to amend the main motion by striking item 9.7.13.1 and
Okay,
item 9.
what I need you to do is to get that typed in so that we have it in the.
It is, it's in the Q&A, sir, like it's supposed to be.
Okay, I'm looking at Q&A. I don't see it. Can HCAM
At
help me locate that?
9:17. Yeah. I can resend it again.
Yeah, resend it. I only see your 916 for the maximum 2-bedroom ones. Okay, I do see this now. Let me just copy and paste this into the record window, okay?
Yep. Move to amend the main motion by striking 9.7.13.1 and item 9.7.13.2 as listed in section 9.7.13, ownership of the contiguous open space, and renumbering section 9.7.13.3 to 9.7.13.1. So is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion by Mr. Costa is made in second. We'll give the floor to Mr. Costa as the motion to amend. Maybe you'd like to explain this a little bit.
Yep. So this was actually, we voted it in the affirmative as a town meeting last November. And this is the same change that was made to this standard verbiage or template that was provided for the other overlay district, again, at the South School. I believe the finance committee recommended that change at that time. Basically, we don't want this conservation land. We then have to maintain it. We have to take care of it. The idea is that if we can go to scroll down a little bit and you see the last option there, because there's 3 options, is that we don't want the town to take it. We don't want a nonprofit to take it. We want the ownership of the development to take it, maintain that property, and it remains taxable. So again, this just takes away some of the options away from us and puts it on the actual people that own the property. That's all.
Okay, that's all you have. Okay, thank you, Mr. Costa. You yield the floor. Seeing no further hands for discussion, the motion to amend on the floor is this, and we'll ask HCAM to help us. This is section 9.7.13 on your screen. The motion to amend would strike item number 1, convey to the town or its conservation commission. It would strike item number 2, a nonprofit organization of the principal purpose of which the conservation of open space, any purpose of this open space set forth above. And if we can scroll down, we will retain item number 3, which is a corporation or trust owned. That would remain instead. I'll call on town council to give an opinion as to the legality of the motion to amend.
Yes, Mr. Moderator, that is, again, within scope and permissible.
Thank you, town council. Chair recognizes Chris Golden.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to concur with Mr. Costa that he is correct. That language, we did ask that language to be removed in the last townhouse overlay district. The town has no use for that land. It doesn't make any sense to take property off the tax rolls that would be currently on the tax rolls as taxable land. They typically would take any of the excess land that is owned by the developer and put it into a deed that would be owned by all the property owners, and it would be part of their own maintenance that would be on them and still taxable by them.
Thank you, Mr. Golden. Yield the floor. Seeing no further hands, we'll move to the vote on the motion to amend. The motion to amend will strike items 1 and 2 from this section, leaving item 3 that you see on the screen. And if we can scroll up and take a look at item 1 and 2 again, so people know what they're deleting before it's deleted. HCAM, could we scroll up 1 page, please? Those 2 things, 1 and 2, will go away. All those in favor of the motion to amend? This does not approve the main article. This only amends the article, and we'll actually get a chance to vote yes or no on the main article when we get to debate on that. All those in favor of the motion to amend, please vote yes. All those opposed? No. Voting is open.
Thank you, Caleb.
Okay, it looks like most of the votes are in. I'm going to end the poll and show the results here. We have 77 in favor of the amendment, 22 opposed. 77 in favor, 22 opposed. The main article is amended by striking those two sections and leaving the third one and renumbering them as such. We will now move to debate on the main article. Looking at hands, I see Patrick Duggan.
Am I the only hand, Mr. Moderator?
So far, everybody else is trying to find the button.
Okay, well, then I won't move the question then. I just want to reiterate some things I've said just to make the point. We've had a lot of discussions the last 2 nights about money and revenue. This brings in revenue to the town. So that's something to consider. I keep hearing revenue and all this stuff. Well, this is purely what it is. The revenue in the town, as indicated in the budget message from the FinCom, is that most of our taxes unfortunately come from residents. The idea to get industry in here is a fantastic one, but it's challenge. The proponent of this development did present to the Finance Committee, and as was beautifully explained by Mr. Golden from the Planning Board, this is only to change the rule, change the bylaw that provides another option for the use of this land. It's not agreeing to anything or anything else. And as was also mentioned in previous night, we want our decisions to be made by the Planning Board, the experts, and the Conservation Commission. That's all going to go through that process. This is giving this person a third option on what to do and more control, which is going to limit to the schools, as was mentioned. It's going to bring in more revenue. He has other options to do, but he's in agreement with the town meeting, I think with planning, I don't want to speak for anybody, that to limit the impact to the schools and all that stuff. So this is giving an option. This is not preventing anything. It's, all the voted boards that were voted by the town, which is the Planning and Conservation, will look at this closely and ensure the right thing is done for the town. We gave them that power, and that's what they're committed to doing. So that's all this vote is going to do, is allow them to do their job even better and still bring in revenue for the town. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Duggan. I'm in no particular order. I'm going to try to balance between petitioner and residents. And I'm going to recognize Donna Dresser. Donna Dresser, you have the floor. You'll receive a notice to unmute. And again, to clarify, we are debating the main motion as amended on article number 23. Ms. Dresser, you should have there you go. We got you now.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. It's Donna Dresser, Precinct 4. I just wanted to say on page 15, the one that says buffer areas, that should read 9.7.14. It's written as 9.4.14. There's a typo there.
Typo in the warrant or in the page up here?
Yes, in the warrant.
Okay, so it recognizes a typo. Town council, I don't have any problem. It seems like a minor clerical correction.
Page 15.
Yeah, Mr. Moderator, that is certainly within the scope.
Okay. So we're just going to call it a clerical and not motion it. Was that acceptable to you?
Yes.
Very good. Well, so thank you for pointing out, Ms. Dresser. Do you have any other further discussion on the article?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for pointing that out. Much appreciated. We'll get that fixed up. Chair recognizes Priscilla Kasna.
Can you hear me, Mr. Moderator?
We can hear you.
Thank you. Priscilla Kasna, Precinct 2. I urge town meeting members to vote no to this motion. I believe our current zoning laws are efficient enough and we have enough diverse housing options without adding another townhouse project to the town. We should be focusing on one development project at a time, such as the South School Overlay District. Using the current zoning bylaws, we can continue to develop and sell houses for tax revenue and attract young professionals. We need to work smart and careful to not overwhelm not only our schools, but our overly congested roadways and provide the housing our senior citizens deserve and need. We need to keep our focus on continuing to improve traffic flow on Plymouth Street, improve our water, bring business to the abandoned buildings up and down South Franklin Street, work on the overlay districts that are already in the current zoning bylaws, and continue to sell houses and build revenue for our town. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'm done.
Thank you, Ms. Kastner. I'm going to mix it up a little bit and go back over to the petitioners. We have Sean Hardy, I believe, who's a panelist. Could we unmute Mr. Hardy to speak next?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'm the engineer for the applicant. He's having a hard time. Frank Duggan, who is the property owner, would like to be unmuted to speak on this. For whatever reason, he can't raise his hand
Okay. So you don't need to speak, but we need to unmute Frank Duggan.
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. Let's put Mr. Hardy in the back and see if we can get Frank unmuted. Frank is a panelist. Frank, can you try your mic now?
Yes.
I can hear some background noise. I can't hear you speaking yet. Try to say a few syllables.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
I got you now. Good. You
Okay.
got the floor.
Thank you. I'd like to thank Finance Committee and Planning Board for speaking on this, and I'd also like to thank the board. I'll try to keep this short, but I just want to make some points to just clarify what we're trying to do here and why we're trying to do it. I know Zach has a few bullet points that he can put up for us as well. In regards to the THOD, the Townhouse Overlay District, it's property located at 146 Plymouth Street, headed northerly towards Pine with also access on Pine Street. This will consist of 230 townhomes. Just so everyone knows, the article was not written by us. The article was written by the town zoning attorney, Mark Grabowski. He was the one that wrote the overlay district for Holbrook Center. And before we could present this to town meeting, he did his diligence reviewing our traffic studies and zoning bylaws and whatnot. So we've been in front of the planning board on several occasions, so they're relatively familiar with the project. And as they stated, they voted favorably to send this to to town meeting. We also appeared in front of Finance Committee, and they gave us a favorable mention to go in front of town meeting also. We just want to make it clear to the voting members that they're not in favor, they're not approving a project here. They're only approving another option for us to remove the over 55 restriction under the current zoning. The current zoning allows us 230 units of over 55 townhouses, but with all the over 55 projects going in the town right now, it would be over 800 units of over 55, and it's just, the market's saturated, and none of the projects would benefit from this nor the town. The option number one, we have 55 single-family homes. That will really tax the school system. And that's the reason why we've moved to the age restricted townhomes. I just want to make that clear, that we do have options to develop the property under current zoning, but we're just looking for another option to try and lessen the impact on the school. And it also will raise the revenue to the town. The town should be seeing over $2 million a year in tax revenue. And with it being a town home subdivision, they would be responsible for trash, roads, maintaining the roads, snow removal and whatnot. So that there's really not a big impact to the budget of the town other than approximately 20 kids in the school system. And we got that from the Gables off of North Quincy Street project, less than 6 miles away. This would be a clone of that project. We contacted the Abington School Department. They said out of 220 units, there was 19 kids in the school system. And that came directly from the school department. The THOD is the most beneficial project to the town because of the high amount of revenue that it brings in. And it's beneficial to us too, because it's a more marketable project where the over 55 has been saturated in the area of Holbrook. And that's about it. If there's any questions that you have, I can answer them.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Duggan. We're going to return you to mute, and I'm going to try to mix it up, and we'll go back actually to the motion page, the initial motion, and I'm going to try to mix it up, and we'll recognize resident Roberta Mankus. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Just for some people might not realize exactly where this is happening. I think most people know where we live because of the flamingos that were in my front yard for so long last summer. And basically this will kind of run right behind us, between us and Belcher Street. And I love this town. And I was born and raised here, as are all my kids. I understand we need revenue, all that. I get that. I'm not against bringing in revenue. But how much more land are we going to destroy in this town? I'm just curious. And I'm sure all of you have driven down Plymouth Street at some point. Do you realize 55 units or 55 houses? How many cars are going to be added to this street and this traffic? And what that's going to do to life in general? Since we moved into this house 20 some odd years ago, there's probably been one serious accident right on that corner a year. I just do not feel this is a good thing. There are so many places up at the South School. Nothing's been done there yet. I realize the pandemic put a stop on everything. I understand that. There are so many empty places. There are so many different things I feel we could do. I honestly just beg you to just don't pass this right now. Maybe we could come up for air and open things up again and have another meeting and have these people sit down and discuss everything. I just want you to know, for all us people that live on Plymouth Street, I'm hoping if this does pass, which I hope it doesn't, but if it does, and this is a plan that goes on, which I realize, it doesn't mean if this passes that that's exactly what's going to happen, but that's the picture I'm seeing and that's the conversation I'm hearing. I'm assuming that maybe the builder or whatever they want to call themselves will, of course, have a police officer in front of all our driveways every day, so I'll be able to get out and go to work. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you very much. Let's try to alternate here. The chair is going to recognize, I say, Chris Golden. You put your hand down. Let me recognize Michael Sigda then.
Thank you, excuse me. Thank you very much, Mike Sigda, Precinct 2. A lot of great discussion tonight. But at this point, I'd like to move the question, please. Thank you.
I have one more resident here. Would you be so kind to hold off on that and allow Mr. Greeley to speak?
Yes,
It's your choice. I think it's polite. These folks are affected by the development.
right. I will allow
Okay,
that.
great. Thank you. Let me give the floor to Mr. Greeley here.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Just by way of a little education, in case people don't know and might be confused, this area is currently zoned R2, in which you could only have a single-family home on a 40,000 square foot lot. And what the zoning change does is makes it so that you can have a dwelling unit, i.e. a condominium, on 10,000 square feet. So what this does is it increases the density of dwelling units by a factor of 4. Now, the argument has been made that because they're townhomes and not single-family dwellings, less kids would be added to the school system. And I suppose it's just going to be a matter of what everybody deems their own common sense to see if that makes sense. We have a housing market right now that is dead. Nobody can buy a house. People are desperate to buy residences. When families, which this zoning article is targeted to, move in and they discover that they can't buy a house anywhere else in Massachusetts, they're not going to stop and say, well, we're not going to have a family. They're going to have a family. That's my opinion. And everybody else is entitled to their own opinion, but that's my opinion. In addition, I have to say, I have to agree with what Ms. Menkes said. 4 times as many dwelling units means 4 times as many cars pulling out on the street in the morning and coming home in the evening. And who needs that? All of my reservations about this zoning article have to do with the schools. They're full. I don't want them to fill anymore. I don't want to have to go back and build another school. I don't want to make sure that the kids don't have crowded classrooms. I think we should vote no on this article. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Greeley. I did want to get back to Mr. Sigda for a moment. Mr. Sigda, you had proposed putting a motion on the floor to move the question. I do see that there were 2 hands raised after you, Mr. Costa and Mr. Hardy. It is your right and privilege as a member of this board to make a motion to move the question, and we move immediately on that. You were kind enough to defer because there was one resident waiting. I'll give you the option of making that motion or deferring to the 2 speakers who are in line.
I'd like to make a motion to move the question, please.
Motion is on the floor to move the question. Hearing no second.
Second. There was no, am I the only one seconding things? I'm sorry, Jim. Second that
Apparently,
motion.
okay, you're going to second the motion. Very good. Okay, motion is made and moved to second. I understand there are speakers that feel that they're waiting. And there's a second also in the chat. Certainly you have the prerogative to vote not to move the question. And but in this case here, we're going to go to move the question. The motion to move the question is non-debatable. And it requires a 2/3 majority to move the question. I'm going to relaunch the poll here. All those in favor of moving forward to vote on the question. This does not approve this article. This only moves to a vote on the article. We're just waiting for a few more votes to come in. Okay, it looks like that's about what we're going to get. The motion to move the question passes with 73 in favor of moving the question, 26 opposed. That's 74% in favor, 26% opposed. That means we've achieved a 2/3 majority vote. We'll now move directly to a vote on the main motion. The main motion is a zoning article. It requires a 2/3 vote. We'd ask all of the panelists and attendees to lower their hands. And the motion is to move that the town amend the zoning bylaws by adding the townhouse overlay districts to section 2.3, and by adding the townhouse overlay district is set forth in section 9.7 as printed in the warrant. All those in favor of the townhouse overlay district motion on article number 23, please vote yes. All those opposed, no. We'll start the polling now. And this is a 2/3 majority required. And we'll leave a little extra time for voting here. We have most of the votes in. I still have a couple of people who are abstaining from voting. So if your intention is to vote, you should vote now. We'll give it just a few more seconds to do that. Okay, we're going to end the polling here and share the results. There were 103 people voting. There are 37 people in favor of the motion. There were 66 opposed. That's 36 in favor, 36% in favor, 64% opposed. This means the motion on Article 23 does not carry. So again, this motion needed a 2/3 majority. It actually received about 2/3 in the negative. So the motion on Article 23 does not carry. We're going to move on now to Article number 24. Is the petitioner of the article going to read for this? Chair calls on Patricia Greeley.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Rhea is going to speak on this, read the motion, if that's okay.
Do you have that person, has their name? Who's that person?
Yeah, Rhea? I don't know how to
What's
say
the
her last name.
Hi, I'm here. Can you
Thank
hear
you.
me? Hi,
Rhea.
Rhea Baskunas, Precinct 4. Can you hear me all right?
Thank you. Yes, we can hear you.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move that the town include the following ballot question on the next election of town officials. Shall Holbrook adopt an open meeting form of government? So passage of this motion would place a ballot question before the voters to allow all registered voters in town to vote on important issues.
Okay, let's just make the motion at this point.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
So let's read your motion again and let's see if we get a second.
Sure. I move that the town include the following ballot question on the next election of town officials. Shall Holbrook adopt an open meeting form of government?
Motion by Ms. Bisconis. I'm just checking for a second here. I have a second from Priscilla Casana, and you. Okay, so the motion has been made and seconded. Ms. Bisconis, I hope I'm saying that right. You have the floor as the petitioner. You can talk about your article now.
Thank you, sir. It's Baskunas.
Bisconis, I was close.
You were. It's a tough one. Thank you. I appreciate the time. So passage of this motion would place a ballot question before the voters to allow all registered voters in town to vote on important issues. So that includes the budget, long-term borrowing, zoning bylaws, all of which affect us. We all fund them by paying property taxes. Open town meeting is the purest form of democracy, and the townspeople should have an opportunity for direct participation in a New England town meeting where everyone gets a vote. And before I go any further, I do want to reiterate that this isn't to make a decision tonight, but rather to put the option for an open town meeting on the ballot and letting the voters decide. We're all citizens of Holbrook. We all pay taxes. The issues discussed here at town meetings should be accessible and voted on by all of us, not just a select few. Some people are probably going to argue that it's very easy to become a town meeting member. And that is certainly true if you have deep roots in Holbrook, many family members in town or colleagues at town hall. But for the average citizen, getting 10 signatures is a significant hurdle. I moved here with my family right before the pandemic started. And while I consider myself to be a person who's well-versed in politics, I was downright mystified by the process of becoming a town meeting member.
Ms. Bisconis, can I interrupt you for a minute? I have
Absolutely.
somebody is raising a point of order. The chair recognizes Patrick Duggan. Your point of order?
I don't believe you received the FinCom recommendations. Is that correct?
Not as of yet. You're absolutely correct. Would you like to give that recommendation now?
Yeah, give me, the FinCom voted.
I
to
gave
nom-
I gave a second and we had 701 against.
Thank you, Pete.
Okay, so the Finance Committee is required to rate these, and I jumped the gun here a little bit. The Finance Committee recommends against with 7 opposed.
Right. Finance Committee does not recommend 7 for, 0 against, 1 abstain.
Okay, so when you say 7-4, those were 7 for not recommending.
Correct.
Okay, just want to make sure we get that straight. Thank you. Again, my
Thank you.
apologies for missing over you in the formalities here.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry, Rhea, go ahead again.
Oh, that's quite all right. I'm just going to start over the point that I was making prior to this, that, you know, some people are going to argue that it's very easy to become a town meeting member. And that is true if you have deep roots in Holbrook, you have family members in town, you have colleagues, friends at town hall. But for the average citizen, such as myself, getting 10 signatures is a significant hurdle. And I moved here right before COVID hit, and I do consider myself to be someone who is pretty up to date and well-versed in politics, but I was so confused by this process. And everyone who pays taxes should be afforded the same privilege of walking into this meeting tonight and making their voice heard. Other people still might have reservations about opening the town meeting to potential special interest groups. Given the number of family members and town employees who are already elected town meeting members, we've really already been operating with special interest groups in our midst. There's no downside whatever to leveling the playing field and allowing all citizens the opportunity to participate in this special form of town government. It's been almost 50 years since the town voted to change the form of government on the ballot. I would implore the voting body to put this back on the ballot tonight and give the people a vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bisconis. We're going to put you on mute now. We do have a number of speakers lined up here. I'm trying to be fair to everybody and ask folks to keep on topic, and probably you only get one shot to speak if you're called on, so use it wisely. Chair recognizes Arthur George.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I don't know that I would have wanted to vote for this a couple of years ago, but I think COVID changed my perspective about a lot of things. I don't even know when I'm going back into my regular office. And we've all been using Zoom or Teams or other forms of communication. And I agree with the proponent of this that it is difficult to find out. For example, we had 2 blank library trustee people, and I don't think people knew about it. And I don't think they know a lot about how the process works. And I just think it would be a wonderful opportunity to allow people, and I think there'll be more of this Zoom and be more sophisticated as the years go on. So I don't see this as a nostalgia trip back. I see this as perhaps looking at it from a different point of view. And I think that this young person is making a good point. And the voters, you know, from time to time, we should hear from all the people, whether they think this is good or not. I'm not saying that I'm against the limited town meeting, but I do think let's have a robust debate about it and put all the things out and let the people decide again. I think 50 years is enough time we've changed the name of selectmen because we thought that, you know, it had seen its day, and we finally recognized June 19th for its Juneteenth for its significance. And I think that this is a progressive town that wants the best. I don't think we're hurt to have people listening in, and if they're intrigued by an article, they come to the town meeting and they let their voices be heard. I think it's a great opportunity to at least engage the rest of the voting public. And if they decide to keep the limited town meeting, then I think that's a pretty good indication that, you know, it's been working. But if they want to go to an open meeting, why shouldn't the voters be at least allowed that opportunity to make that decision? So I'm speaking in favor of this motion.
Thank you, Arthur George. The chair recognizes next Richard Stagnoni.
Yeah, my first thing is, can I inquire with the town clerk? My first thing is, as to how many open town meeting slots there are right now?
I'm not sure if the town clerk is available to answer that. Maggie or Jeannie, how many open seats do we have? I don't believe there's anybody that has that information in hand.
Okay, all right, but there clearly are some, right?
Yeah, I can tell you that the opening, I believe right now there's 219 members. I think that's the last number that I had, and I shouldn't even talk about that. That's
And the total should be like 240?
240.
Yeah, okay, all right. Well, as somebody who was elected the last time to
Jim?
town meeting.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Here's your answer. Here's your official answer from Jeannie.
Oh, okay, Jeannie,
There are 31 open seats.
31, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
So, yeah, and as somebody who was elected the last time with 2 write-in votes, by a landslide, I got a position as town meeting member. So, you know, I think there's ample opportunity. There was just an election not too long ago, and we have all these open slots that
Excuse
folks
me.
could have.
Jim,
Yep.
I'm sorry, Richard, to interrupt you, but I just realized I'm so tired. There's only 21 open seats, not 31.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
That's still a substantial number. That's almost 10%. So, so my point is, you know, I was elected with 2 votes. We just had an election. We still have all these vacancies unfilled with an election that's just happened a month and a half ago or something. So, and I do remember the town meetings when we had the open town meeting, and people would just show up for a single issue, and it was a problem. I think I don't want to return to that where we just get a mob for one issue to push through some pet issue. I think we need people who are dedicated to looking at all the articles and being consistent participants, so that we have that experience, an experienced pool of folks. And like I said, I think there's just ample opportunity for others to get in as a town meeting member. And I don't even know what the process is for fulfilling these 21 open spots. Is it, could anybody come up and say, I want to be a town meeting member at this point to fill a vacancy? Is that an option? So I'm not in favor of this, because I don't think it's in best interest of the town, and I think there's ample opportunity to get elected as a town meeting member. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stagnoni. Again, we have a lot of speakers lined up. I'll try to be fair and get opponents and proponents and people we haven't heard from. Chair recognizes Leonard Olson. Please do keep it brief and stay on topic.
Hi,
you have, I'm sorry, you have a feedback there. You need to.
Hi, Leonard Olson, Precinct 4. Yes, I've spoken before about this, and I agree with the last speaker. What we've experienced in the past is people trying to pack the town meeting for one single issue, and then they disappear. It's very easy to become a town meeting member. As he said, there's 21 open slots. Some people have been elected with 1 vote by a write-in candidate, not even getting the 10 supposed signatures that you need to get on the ballot. Without even getting on the ballot, people write them in because there's so few people that are willing to participate. So I don't think it's a problem to get to be a town meeting member. It's not prohibitive, but the people who do become town meeting members, are dedicated to addressing all of the problems, not just some single issue, as I've seen in the past. And I think I mentioned the one where people came in and were worried about their kids being hit by baseballs in the twilight, and got $80,000 to install lights in the ball field that ultimately couldn't be used because of power problems. So I don't know. That's enough of that. But anyway, the problem is you can become a town meeting member quite easily, and it's I think it deserves the effort to do that. Enough. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Olson. So we do have quite a few speakers in line here. I'm going to try to pick them out in the order that I saw them come in. I'll do the best I can to get folks who have fresh opinions a chance to speak. The chair recognizes Chris Golden as being the next speaker. Mr. Golden.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'll keep it brief. I want to
Please do,
reiterate.
yeah. And we caution folks to stay on
Yeah.
topic and keep it brief
gonna
so everybody
reiterate,
gets a chance to say.
I want to reiterate both of the last speakers. It is not a difficult process. You can get 10 signatures by going to one baseball game or one soccer game. You don't have to know the people. You can just tell them you want to run for town meeting. There's always open slots, always open slots. Two people writing in your name in an election will get you on as a town meeting member if there is a vacancy and you're not on the ballot. And I'm not from Holbrook, and I've been a town meeting member for almost 20 years. And I've only lived here for about 25, and I had to get 50 signatures to get on. And I'm also the current chair of the planning board. It's not who you know, it's how involved you want to be. And if getting 10 signatures is too involved, then going to a town meeting sounds like it might be a lot more involved than getting 10 signatures. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Golden. Chair next recognizes Pamela Campanella.
Hi, yes, I would like, can you hear me?
Could you just identify yourself and precinct
Oh,
two,
it's
just so folks know who you are.
Pamela Campanella, precinct 3.
You're on TV.
I'd like to echo the sentiment of the past speakers. I also am not from this town nor the state when I moved here. And it took the education of myself to understand the government to be able to run for selectmen. It was an easy process. It was not a difficult one as a new person in town. And as people have come to the meetings to say that it is a difficult process, I've always said to people who said they feel they weren't represented to make sure that they educate themselves to want to be in government. So it is easy to be a town meeting member. It's easy to run for everything. Excuse me. And I think the town's changing and the good old boys club is fading. So I just reiterate to people, you want to do things, excuse me again, just educate yourselves and you can run for any position in town. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Campanella. I'm going to jump order here and get some new voices as well. I have Amy Pierce. Chair recognizes Amy Pierce.
Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you fine. Thank you.
Hi, thank you. This is Amy Pierce. I just wanted to get back to the young woman that first brought this up for it to be a motion. This is the second time that I've heard this. I've been off and on town meeting. It is easy to get on, but you have to know how to get on. There's nothing on the website that tells you how to get on to town meeting. There's no one telling anyone how to get on to town meeting. And a lot of other towns have the open meeting. So people that are coming from other places think that it already is open meeting. So I don't understand where the fear is coming from of having open meeting. This gets stacked all the time. I've been on town meeting before where people come in for the reasons they want to come in. Even these past couple of nights, people come in and talk for the things that they want, and then they're not there for the other articles. So it's really no different. And I'm just not clear on why the fear is of just letting people that want to be there, be there. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Pierce. Chair now recognizes Patrick Duggan. Again, we'd
Sorry
like to,
to
we do
pre-
have a number of
Yeah.
speakers still in line, and we'd like to keep it brief and
Yep.
germane.
Yes, I will. I will do my very best. Patrick Duggan, Finance Committee. I also am against this. I also am not from this town and get on the board is easy. As Ms. Campanella said, you just need people who need the initiative to do it. During regular votes, our votes are low, meaning our town-wide vote in elections. People need to be interested. It is not hard, as someone had mentioned to me, come to our Finance Committee meeting. There's 8 people there. We'll all sign it for you because we can't get a 9th member for a year and a half. There are opportunities to be involved. If you can't find the information on the town website, pick up the phone. There's a town clerk. There's plenty of places to find the information. In regards to the Old Boy Network, and it's something that I'm sorry to bring this up, Jim, as someone who has people in government, just because there's a small town, there's going to be a lot of families, and a lot of people are going to know each other. That's why we like living here. And just because a family member may work in the town does not make anything else. They may be qualified for that, as I'm qualified for work for this. So I don't like these insinuations being thrown out. I'm not attacking anyone. I know it sounds like that. I'm talking town-wide, that just because I know someone or I met somebody, but I was on the couch for years. I know a lot of kids who've now grown up in this town. So just because I associate with someone does not mean it's an old boys network or that we're trying to get things done. I think that is what's hurting this town, is that fear of things that are going on behind the doors when they're really not, when people just need to find the time to educate themselves, get on the boards, get on town meeting. They need to do that and not sit back and wait for something that annoys them or affects them personally, then to say, I want to move to the votes, I want to get an open town meeting. There's plenty of opportunities to do it. They just need to educate themselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Duggan. I do see in the chat there are 2 people requesting to be heard on points of order. I will remind the speakers that there are only 3 situations we honor for points of order. The first is the question of, is the speaker entitled to the floor? In other words, are they a non-voter or somebody who overstayed their time? The second is that the speaker is proposing is indecorous, frivolous, irrelevant, illegal, or contrary to proper procedure. And the third reason for a point of order is there any pending action, frivolous, irrelevant, illegal, or contrary to proper procedure. So with that, I'm going to open the point of order to Rhea Bisconis and see what her point of order is. And again, if it falls into one of these, we'll move over to the next point of order. Chair gives the floor to Rhea.
Thank you, sir. I just want to reiterate that this isn't to have a debate about whether or not we should have the.
That's not a point of order.
Okay, I apologize.
Okay, again, those 3 items. Is the speaker entitled to the floor? Is the speaker saying something that's frivolous, irrelevant, illegal, or contrary? Or is there pending action that's frivolous, irrelevant, illegal, or proper?
Sure, I would say it's the second one then, irrelevant.
Okay, you're entitled to your opinion. Thank you. And that's before we go into the debate. And we'll call Megan Mitchell for her point of order. Again, if you're, those are the 3 things that we allow for points of order, and according to the town meeting time manual. Not trying to be, interfere with anybody's ability to speak. And if you put your hand up, we'll let you speak. But that's what point of order is.
Yeah, my point was just going to be that the motion is to put it on the ballot, not to debate if it should be an open town meeting or not. And everyone seems to be getting confused about that. So.
Okay, that's a clarification of the issue, and that could be, it's not really a point of order. Okay, let's continue with the calling of the names here that we have. We have a good number of folks. I'm going to try to get to people in order and from people that we haven't heard from. Mr. Thomas Haskins, you have the floor.
Yes, as an author of a book on the Founding Fathers, I'd like to say unequivocally, they considered pure democracy to be destructive. Also, I did not grow up in this town. I moved here in 2010. As soon as I thought I might want to be on the town meeting, it was easy to get elected. I didn't have to know anyone or anything like that. Lastly, if the town sends out packages to town meeting members, we read the packages, we're informed, we discuss these issues. Are we going to send out that 10,000 packages out to all the residents of Holbrook every time we have a town meeting? And I mean, it's onerous. And again, town meeting members, they come more informed than someone who's just walking in because they heard about an issue. So I definitely oppose this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Haskins. Again, we do have a number of people wishing to speak. We'll try to get to everybody, barring no motions. And the chair recognizes Michael Fleming. Please be brief. Mr. Fleming, we're not hearing you.
I pressed the button. How's that?
There you go.
Last year, this was presented at town meeting. Two proponents got up and spoke. Both of them said they wanted a change. They couldn't articulate or did not articulate what changed to and for what reason. Currently, it seems like that people just want to change. What will that accomplish? Allow more people to come out? My experience is in a variety of such sessions, and I'll be very quick on this, it does open up to special interest. It is classic for this type of arrangement to allow for special interest to pack the meetings. And that really continues. Also, I think that representative town meetings are more transparent and for accountability of those individuals who vote for that. Again, while there are many open seats, you still can run and defeat somebody very easily if you think that town meeting representative was not following what you think that person should be. It's an election. You can easily put yourself up for election to defeat somebody who you do not think serves your best interest. Lastly, it is incumbent upon all of us to make that. This is a service. We are a service indicated society that should do this. And I think it's very facile for people to, and frankly, an urban myth for people to say, well, this is a system for old boys and townies to pass this election, pass issues and for their own particular benefit. That doesn't happen anymore. It really is. It's too broad a spectrum, too broad and diverse a members of the town meeting to throw that accusation out. I think that's unfair, unwanted, and just a cavalier throwing of an urban myth. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Mr. Fleming. We still have a number of speakers lined up. The chair recognizes Roberta Mankus. We try to get to everybody and please be brief and to the point. This is your chance to convince other people to vote the way you think they should vote.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I think somebody else might have just said this. We have to realize this is just a motion that would allow this on the ballot. It's not saying it's going to happen. It's just putting it on the ballot, if I'm reading this right. And I remember the open meetings. I know what everybody's talking about. I remember people that came and voted for one thing and then went home. But I can also honestly say, I remember many meetings since then with us being elected where people, whether they were tired or maybe it was something they weren't interested in, where we'd have to count and see if there were people out in the cafeteria eating or in the ladies or men's room. So that can happen anyways. The way I look at it is that was 50 years ago. Why are we going to punish people saying 50 years ago it didn't work and this is what happened? Why don't we just throw it on the ballot and let us as Holbrook townspeople do our, education on it and make a decision and vote the way we want. So I say, let's throw it on the ballot and see what happens. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you. Moving right along, Chair recognizes Charles Greeley next in line.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I just want to kind of counter the argument that you get a more dedicated legislator if you have to run to become a town meeting member. We have 90 people here tonight out of 240. And just like Roberta just said, there have been times when there have been people on the phone calling town meeting members, the dedicated town meeting members, to please come to town meeting so we could pass a budget or to get the town meeting items done. If we have 5,000 more people that we can call, we'll be able to make a quorum a little easier than having to get the dedicated representatives. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Greeley. Chair recognizes next Priscilla Kasna.
Can you hear me, Mr. Moderator?
I can, and just for placeholders, we have actually 9 people on the list, so we're working through the list here.
I will be very brief, I promise. I think people are getting hung up on the townie term. It's not to really be offensive And I think that she is here now as a town meeting member, and all she's saying is that the people of Holbrook really deserve to decide on the next election, whether this should happen or not. Thank you, I'm done.
Thank you, Ms. Kastner. Chair recognizes Margaret Duggan.
Hello, Margaret Duggan, Precinct 4. I'm also Assistant Town Clerk, but I just want to say the people who are, okay, I'm speaking to the article, but saying that I've been a town member for 20 years, it's very easy to become a town meeting member. Yes, it was easy 20 years ago. It's different now. Holbrook is different now. So I think we should put it out there for everyone to vote on, because at least the people who are voting on it would be the people to show up at these open town meetings. So that's really all I had to say. And can I make a motion to move the question?
Yes, you can. Motion is on the floor, has been made and seconded to move the question. Can we mute Ms. Duggan and Mr. Lee? Okay, there we go. Motion is on the floor to move the question. And motion is on the floor to move the question. This means we will terminate debate. It does not mean we approve or disapprove of this. It means we will stop debate. All the speakers who are currently in line will not be speaking. This requires a 2/3 majority to approve this motion of the question. All those in favor of moving the question, please vote yes. All those opposed to moving the question, vote no. Again, this is a 2/3 majority. This does not mean yes or no on the question. It just means we move immediately to the vote without further debate. And all those in line will lose their place. We're just watching a few more votes come in. I think we're about tapped out here. We have 85 people in favor of terminating debate and moving the question. We have 14 opposed to moving the question. The motion carries to move the question. We move immediately without debate to the main motion on the floor. Motion on the floor is to move that the town include the following ballot question on the next election of town officials. Quote, shall the Holbrook adopt an open meeting form of government, end quote. This is a simple majority vote. All of those in favor of the motion as read, please signify by voting yes.
Moderator,
All those opposed to the motion, please vote no. This is fairly close, so I'm going to give some extra time. There are 106 people as attendees on this meeting. 101 have voted so far. We'll see if we get a few trickle in from the kitchen, the television. We'll give it about 15 more seconds for voting. I still see a few trickling in here. We're going to move to end the polling very shortly. Any final votes? We have 102 people out of 106 attendees who are voting on this. The results are on the screen. There were 47 in favor of the article, 57 opposed. Motion on Article 24 does not carry. Again, 47 in favor, 55 opposed to the article. This ends the docket for the town meeting. I'd ask if somebody would be kind enough to make a motion to dissolve the town meeting and second it.
Motion to dissolve the town meeting.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, dissolved. All of those in favor of dissolving the town meeting, please vote yes.
Good, huh?
Votes are coming in. I think we might know the answer to this one already. The motion to dissolve is not debatable, by the way. Okay, looks like we have everything in. We have 91 people voting. There are 87 in favor of dissolving the meeting. There are 4 opposed to dissolving the meeting. The annual town meeting is now officially dissolved. Just in closing comments, I want to thank everybody for their patience while we ran this through the Zoom meeting. This is the hopefully the last time we'll do this, especially if everybody gets their vaccinations. And we look forward to seeing everybody for the next special town meeting, and hopefully we'll see everybody in person. Thanks again and have a good evening.